It was called Dumrock, the biggest VR game on the planet, a total legend from day one, with over 100 million players. It felt like it would last forever, but nothing stays at the top. The hype eventually died out, the rankings tanked, and the world moved on. Now, the service is finally ending, the lights are going out for good. A system message appeared. Hello, this is Deus Ex Machina Ragnarok. The service will terminate in exactly 30 minutes. Meet the legends, the top 5 players in the world, all gathered in one place. Kaiser, the #1 ranker, stands at the center of it all. Purple Taste said with a sigh, "This crappy game, I always wanted it to fail, but I didn't think it actually would." The Sword Emperor agreed. It was fun, but the luck-based mechanics were total trash. Kukakikin didn't hold back. You kill a dragon, and you get a brick as a reward? No wonder it's dying. The mood was heavy, but they couldn't stop bickering, even at the very end. Kaiser looked at his friends, and spoke up. Still, Kaiser looked at the fire. "It's a bit disappointing," he said quietly. Purple Taste nodded. "You worked harder than anyone to master this game. Watching you fight was like seeing god-tier gameplay. It made sense you'd feel this way." But Kukakikin laughed. "The gods are fair though. Your luck is easily the worst here. Think about it. The #1 player in the world doesn't have a single legendary skill. If you actually had good luck, you wouldn't even talk to us. People should have seen you fail 10 enhancements in a row, screaming that the world was rigged." The whole group burst out laughing. Purple Taste kept roasting him. "If you really look at it, he's the worst of us all." The Sword Emperor couldn't help but agree. "Seriously, he had the worst luck of anyone I've ever seen." But the laughter didn't last long. The system message flashed one final time. "The service is terminating today. Thank you for staying with us until the very end." The clock finally hit 0, and the world began to fade. Purple Taste started to vanish first. "You worked hard," he said with a smile. The Sword Emperor looked around as his body turned to light. "This is really the end now." Kukakikin waved goodbye. "See you next time." In a god-tier game, one by one, the legends were gone. Kaiser stood alone, the last soul left. In a dying world, the fire flickered out, and just like that, the plug was pulled. Dumrock was officially dead. In the real world, the headset was set down. For the very last time, the game was over. But life went on, and 2 years passed, faster than anyone expected. 2 years later, the world has new legends to obsess over. On a crowded bus, 2 students were losing it over some insane gameplay. One guy shouted, "That control is unreal." He took down a demon lord solo. They were talking about annihilation, the top ranker everyone fears, and the Empress, a total beast on the battlefield. But then, the conversation shifted to a name from the past. "Wait, what about Kaiser, the guy who was #1, back in Dumrock?" His friend shook his head. "Oh right, Kaiser was on another level, but he went inactive the second the game ended. Now he's a total ghost. Nobody knows where he is, or what he's doing." Little did they know, the legend they were talking about was sitting right behind them, hidden in plain sight. Kaiser just sat there, listening to every word. 2 years have passed since the world of Dumrock went dark for good, but a new king has risen, God of Savior. Everyone calls it GOTS. It's bigger and better, with more players, and endless ways to play. It's a world of total freedom. But while everyone was leveling up, the legend was nowhere to be found. That's because Kang Do-hyun, the man known as Kaiser, was busy serving his country. But the wait is over. He's officially a civilian again, and he's got one thing on his mind. Wait for me. GOTS, the rank 1 player, is finally back in the game. Kaiser finally made it home, but he wasn't there for a family reunion. He burst through the door, screaming for one thing: "Where's the capsule?" His sister couldn't believe it. "You just got back, and that's all you care about?" Even his mom felt the sting, complaining that he used to only cry for her. But Kaiser wasn't listening. He went straight for his room, and there it was, a high-tech VR capsule, the kind he'd only seen on TV. This was the prize he'd been dreaming about for 18 long months. Every cent he saved during his military service went into this machine. He couldn't help himself. The design, the feel of it, everything was perfect. The legend was finally ready to plug back in. Kaiser finally climbed in, settling into the machine he'd worked so hard for. It was second-hand, but he didn't care. The quality was better than he expected. He took a second to appreciate the moment before things got serious. Then, it was time. He grabbed the helmet and looked straight ahead with total confidence. Shall I log in? The moment of truth was finally here. The second he put it on, the system kicked in. Retina scan, ID verification, everything was moving fast. In just a few seconds, the sync was complete. There was no turning back now. The real world faded away as the interface lit up. Welcome to the paradise of adventure. God of Savior, the legend is officially locked and loaded. The system dropped him right into character creation, but looking in the mirror, he wasn't impressed. He looked exactly like he just finished his service. Way too much like a soldier. There were thousands of options to change his look, but he wasn't feeling it. Ugh, too much work. I'll just pick something. He went into lazy mode and clicked a random style just to get it over with. Then came the final step. The system asked for a name. He didn't even have to think. A nickname. Kaiser. With that one word, the king was officially back in the game. The name was locked in, and the system didn't waste a single second. Character created. Welcome, Kaiser. He was warped out of the menu and dropped straight into the deep end. This wasn't some boring training camp. It was a total war zone. The former Arlen Castle was going up in flames right in front of him. He couldn't believe it. This is a virtual reality game? The realism was next level, but he didn't have time to just stand there. The system gave him one final prompt. Please select a weapon. The tutorial was over. The real fight was starting right now. A weapon. He looked at the options, but it was all bottom tier gear. Nothing special here, just basic stuff. He didn't need anything flashy anyway. He just needed what he was used to. I've only ever used swords since Dumrock. He reached out and grabbed a simple blade, relying on pure muscle memory. But before he could even take a swing, someone crashed the party. Oh there, what are you doing here? It was Charlie, the knight captain, and by the look on his face, he wasn't looking for a friendly chat. There was no time to even process the situation. Charlie grabbed him and started running. Come on, let's go. The others are already in the thick of it. Before he could even argue, the system made it official. He was forced into a party with the knight captain. They sprinted through the burning ruins until they hit a gruesome sight. Dead monsters everywhere. Charlie didn't look surprised. He looked disgusted. They finally joined forces with the monsters. This was way worse than a simple invasion. If the rumors are true, they made a pact with that monster. Charlie's voice was full of pure urgency. If we don't stop them now, that thing is going to descend. Whatever was coming, it was clearly on a whole different level. Charlie led the way, pushing through a side door. Hurry, this shortcut will get us there fast. But the shortcut was already compromised. Arrows hissed out of the shadows, pinning them down. The second they stepped out, the enemy was way ahead of them. They've already swarmed the place. Charlie didn't hesitate. He stepped up to clear a path. First, I'll break through there. But he didn't even get to finish his sentence. Kaiser beat him to the punch. He didn't wait for a plan or a command. He just moved like a blur straight into the pack. The first monster didn't even see him coming. Charlie saw it coming and screamed out a warning. Danger! But he was worrying about the wrong person. Kaiser didn't even flinch. He just dropped low, sliding right under the strike. The monster thought it had him cornered, but it was a total mismatch. Karak? Before the beast could even blink, Kaiser drew his blade. One clean motion was all it took. He wasn't just fighting, he was executing a plan with terrifying precision. The speed was insane. These things didn't stand a chance. By the time the blood hit the floor, he was already moving to the next target. This wasn't a struggle, it was a slaughter. The monsters were confused. They couldn't even track where he was moving. Ki-ook? One of them tried a desperate overhead swing, pouring everything into the strike. Kwa-aok. But swinging big just meant leaving a massive opening. Kaiser didn't even need his sword for this one. He stepped inside the guard and delivered a brutal kick straight to the jaw. It was lights out before the beast even hit the ground. KWEO. The others watching from the hallway completely froze. They were finally starting to realize the truth. KIIK. They weren't the hunters anymore. They were the prey. Kaiser didn't just win, he cleaned house with one final massive sweep of his blade. The momentum was enough to send the last of them flying into the walls. He landed perfectly, without a single wasted movement. The hallway went silent as he checked his blade. I was worried, since it's been a while, but it's not bad at all. He wasn't even breaking a sweat. In fact, he felt better than ever. My body feels a bit lighter. But while he was just getting warmed up, everyone else was in shock. Charlie could barely find his voice. My goodness, I can't believe it. They knew he was strong, but this was on a whole different level. Charlie was totally sold. He couldn't believe one man took down 5 monsters alone. Truly amazing. Right then, a system window popped up. Charlie's favorability was already climbing, but Kaiser wasn't exactly celebrating. He found the whole thing a little too easy. Favorability? Dumrock had it too, but this is fast. He started wondering if the standards here were just a bit lenient to increase it with just one hunt. Meanwhile, Charlie was busy turning him into a legend inside his own head. For an unknown mercenary to display such prowess. Perhaps this person is a hero from the legends. The notifications started flooding in. Charlie wasn't just impressed, he was deeply moved. The favorability bar didn't just fill up, it hit the absolute maximum. Now, Kaiser has a ride or die in the Knight Captain. He trusts him implicitly. Even if Kaiser did something terrible, Charlie would take his side, without a second thought. He just gained the ultimate shield. Kaiser just hit the jackpot. For maxing out Charlie's trust, he unlocked a rare title, Affection Max. From the start, it wasn't just for show, it gave him a stat boost, and made winning people over even easier from now on. Oh, that'll be quite useful. Charlie was already acting like his best friend. He was convinced it was gonna be smooth sailing. Thanks to you, things have become much easier. He pointed toward the doors, thinking they were one step away from winning. Now if we just eliminate the Dark Sorcerer, we can end this war. But he spoke too soon. Right then, the entire room erupted in purple lightning. The air itself seemed to tear apart. Good heavens, has the summoning already begun? Out of the shadows, the real nightmare started crawling through. Kiak, the celebration was over. The real fight was just getting started. Charlie decided right then to play the hero. He was gonna hold the line all by himself. I will hold them off here. You, go quickly and stop the summoner. He looked at Kaiser with total conviction, like he was passing the torch to a legend. If it's you, I think I can trust you with this. Then, something incredible happened. Charlie started glowing with a blinding golden light. Please, may the hero be blessed by Arlen Castle. With a massive roar, he charged straight into the heart of the swarm. Kaiser could only watch. He was completely stunned, because this was totally off script. He's going in? According to the walkthrough Kaiser had seen before, this wasn't how the tutorial was supposed to go. The story was changing, and there was no turning back now. Kaiser watched the screen, completely baffled. The tutorial was officially going off the rails. Charlie went in first. He knew the game was supposed to react to a player's choices, but this was next level. But it changes this much? As he stepped toward the massive doors, purple energy started crackling everywhere. That's when the system did something impossible. It started throwing up warning messages right in the middle of the tutorial. Only one person can enter at a time. The stakes were suddenly sky high. If he failed now, the boss would become completely unstoppable. Would you like to enter? Kaiser realized this wasn't just a glitch in the system. This is a hidden piece he just stumbled onto, a secret mechanic deliberately buried deep within the game. This was a total game changer, and he only had one shot to get it right. Kaiser wasn't about to back down now. The reward for this hidden piece was too big. Are you sure you want to enter? He didn't hesitate. He knew exactly what he was doing. There's no reason to avoid something this valuable. He gave the command and went all in. Yes. As he stepped through, the atmosphere shifted. Everything was turning into a total disaster. Inside the room, the Dark Sorcerer was losing his mind. Quack, what is wrong? The ritual he started had gone completely sideways. The monster he called wasn't taking orders. I summoned you, listen to me. But it was too late. A massive, scaly nightmare was tearing its way into reality. This definitely wasn't part of the plan. Kaiser had just walked straight into a slaughter. The sound of heavy metal echoed through the chamber. Something massive was stirring in the dark. Right then, the system confirmed Kaiser's worst fears. Restrained iron-blooded, demonic dragon. This wasn't just some random boss. This was the real deal. The beast was colossal, towering over him, with glowing red eyes, full of pure malice. Even with those massive chains holding it back, the pressure was insane. Kaiser looked like a tiny speck compared to this nightmare. He was officially way out of his league, and the fight hadn't even started yet. The game god of Savior borrowed a lot from Dumrock, including the entire tier system. Bosses weren't safe from these rankings either, but the real nightmares are the ones with actual names. That's exactly what Dumrock is looking at right now. A named boss, the iron-blooded demonic dragon. Facing something like this means the real game is finally starting. The dragon didn't just roar, it completely shattered the atmosphere. Just being in its presence sent Dumrock's stats into a free fall. Speed and defense, everything just tanked by 30%. Dumrock couldn't believe it. These crazy F***ers, do they have no conscience? The developers really wanted him dead. But there was one small silver lining. The dragon's magic was still sealed away. But if that massive paw lands even one hit, it's game over anyway. One hit from that claw, and I'm toast. No second chances here. But honestly, I've been backed into corners like this plenty of times. Back in the old days, there was only ever one way out of a mess. It's do or die, simple as that. The dragon made its move, but Dumrock was already one step ahead. This wasn't just a fight, it was survival. The exchange was blinding. Dumrock moved like a blur, trading blows with a monster 10 times his size. He was landing hits, finding every opening, but something felt off. After a massive strike, the truth finally hit him in the face. 120, that was the damage. He was barely scratching the surface. Looking at that HP bar, Dumrock realized this was gonna be a very long night. 2 full power attacks, and only 120 damage? He was barely chipping away. The rumors weren't exaggerating. This was officially the worst possible difficulty. The community was clear. This boss wasn't built to be beaten. It's a tutorial boss. That's basically a god. Nobody has ever taken it down. Even the top players hit a brick wall here. But Dumrock didn't stop. He kept swinging, refusing to accept the impossible. If it takes damage, it can be killed, no matter what. The comments say. Most people thought hitting this thing was just for show, but Dumrock wasn't just playing around. He was actually making progress. Then, everything flipped. The system updated, and the dragon's name suddenly changed. The entire community started losing its mind. Is this a bug? How is a level 1 pulling this off? Nobody could believe it. Someone just did the impossible. The world wanted to know who was behind this absolute madness. One final strike, and the impossible actually happened. The beast went down, and the system started going crazy. Dumrock didn't just win, he became the first person to ever kill a legendary boss. In the tutorial, single-handedly, he broke the game and made history. He stood there, covered in the aftermath, barely able to speak. He couldn't even finish the sentence. But the rewards were just getting started. That stubborn bastard is finally dead. It finally started to sink in. He was the first one to ever pull this off. That meant even the legends, the guys at the very top, couldn't touch this boss. Kukakikin was furious, screaming at the devs for making an impossible game. Even Purple Taste could only laugh at how broken it was. Dumrock just smirked, wondering how those guys were holding up now. Right then, the system gave him the ultimate reward, the title of First Slayer. Everything was about to change for him. The notifications just wouldn't stop. Weapon Master, Hidden Dragon, Hero, one after another. The most insane traits kept stacking up. Dumrock couldn't believe it. Usually in the tutorial, you're lucky to get just one. But he wasn't done. The system hit him with something even bigger. The Eye of Truth, a unique trait that changed the whole game. In the world of Go's, traits are everything. They're the difference between a nobody and a god. From exploration guides to master-level combat, these powers define who you really are. And Dumrock just grabbed more than anyone thought possible. This is actually insane. The buffs just keep coming. Increased stats, mastery over every weapon, and total immunity to status effects. But then, he saw the real prize. Weapon Master and Hero are top-tier traits, but other people can still get them. The Eye of Truth is different. It's a unique trait, meaning it's the only one that exists in the world. Dumrock realized it. Right then, he didn't just win, he hit the ultimate jackpot. 6 traits, and 1 legendary title. This is absolutely broken. First Slayer, it gives him massive stats, and extra damage, against every boss he meets. For a guy with historically trash luck, this felt incredible. Dumrock was finally on top of the world. But the celebration didn't last long. A door creaked open, and the mood flipped in a second. Charlie stood there, looking like he'd been through a meat grinder. He could barely even stand. The real cost of this win was finally showing up. At the door, Charlie was losing his mind. He heard the monster roar, but Dumrock was standing there, without a single scratch. He asked the question everyone was thinking, "Who the hell are you?" Dumrock tried to explain, but Charlie didn't even want to hear it. In his eyes, the truth was already clear. He said firmly, "It doesn't matter where you came from. Heroes are born in chaos." To Charlie, Dumrock wasn't just a guy, he was a ray of light, sent to change the world. Dumrock just stood there. The awkwardness was hitting at a whole new level. But Charlie was dead serious. He dropped to one knee and made a plea that would change everything. He called him a hero and asked for one thing from the man who just broke the world. Charlie didn't just want to say thanks, he offered to become Dumrock's sword. This was a massive deal. The system confirmed it. Charlie was ready to ditch his old master and pledge everything to a new liege. Dumrock was stunned. Stealing a knight commander? That's a game changer. But then, the system dropped a reality check. Charlie is a ghost. He died a long time ago. This whole tutorial is just a memory. accepting his loyalty, wouldn't give Dumrock any actual buffs or items. It was just a formality. Dumrock looked at him and gave the green light. Do as you wish. Right then, the history of the war changed forever. In Charlie's memories, the tragedy was gone, replaced by a victory he could finally rest in peace with. Dumrock watched him go, knowing he'd just given a dead man the one thing he needed. But the journey wasn't over yet. The Pantheon was calling. The blue light was everywhere now. The transition had already started. Charlie didn't hesitate. He looked at Dumrock with total loyalty and asked for his first order. My liege, where are we headed next? Dumrock took a second to let it sink in. The weight of the title was finally real. He didn't give a specific map point or a name. He just looked ahead and said, we go where we're needed. That was it. The mission was clear. They were heading straight into the heart of the chaos. The tutorial was over. The real game was just getting started. Dumrock made it simple. In a world this messy, you go where the fire is. Charlie was speechless. Those words hit home. Just as the warp started to kick in, the system didn't wait. The countdown to the Pantheon was already live. But right before the world vanished, Charlie reached out. My liege, please take this. He handed over something small, a parting gift from a loyal knight. Dumrock caught it just as the clock hit the final seconds. He had no idea what he was holding, but the system was already logging it in. Whatever this was, it was coming with him to the next world. Charlie finally got what he needed. As he faded into the light, he had one last thing to say. Thank you, my liege. He wasn't just saying goodbye. He was asking for salvation for everything they left behind. Then, the scenery flipped. In a heartbeat, the tutorial was gone. The system confirmed. The jump was a success. Welcome to the Pantheon. Dumrock was standing in front of a massive stone gate, and there was no turning back now. Dumrock was standing before something massive. This wasn't just another room. The system made it very clear. This was the place where everything changed. He had to choose a god and pick a path that would decide his entire future. The tutorial was officially a thing of the past. Now, the real stakes were coming into play. The system's final message was simple. Good luck, you're gonna need it. The clock was ticking. Dumrock only had 5 seconds before the warp kicked in. Right then, Charlie pressed something into his hand. My liege, please take this. Dumrock didn't understand. What is this? But there was no time left. Charlie just smiled. Thank you for everything. Please, salvation. Before he could say another word, the light took over, and Dumrock was gone. The light cleared, and the system message popped up. Welcome to the Pantheon. This was the place where you choose your god and decide your entire future. Dumrock looked around. So this is the famous Pantheon. But he knew the truth. People didn't call it a temple. They called it the gotcha room. This one spot made players laugh or cry, based on pure luck. This was it. The god gotcha was about to begin. The rules here are simple. You can only serve one god, and that choice locks in your entire future. But there's a catch. In this game, even the gods have tiers. First, you've got the fable gods, beings born from old stories and ancient legends. Then, there are the hero gods, humans who were so legendary, they actually ascended to heaven. But at the top of the food chain are the myth gods, the ones who created entire worlds from scratch. Names like Zeus or Odin, the heavy hitters, who sit at the highest tier. This choice was about to change everything. The system was ready. Each card held a different god, and Dumrock had to choose. He looked at the massive pile. Wow, that's a lot. He wasn't expecting much. I have no luck anyway. There's no need to get greedy. But then, something caught his attention. Wait, why is that 1 gold? Right then, a new power kicked in, the Eye of Truth. It didn't just look at the cards, it saw right through them, to the hidden secrets inside. Dumrock couldn't believe it. This ability was a total game changer. If this was real, he didn't need luck anymore. From now on, he could guarantee a top-tier pull, every single time. People used to mock him, cuck and called it pitiful, and others said his luck was the only thing holding him back. He laughed it off. But deep down, it was a bitter pill to swallow. But everything changed. With this new power, he could finally climb back to the top of the world. He had to stay calm. No more settling for trash. He was only going for the gold. He reached out and grabbed the glowing card. The system flashed. You have drawn the myth god, one-armed sword god tier. This was it. The ultimate power was right in his hands. Dumrock thought he hit the jackpot. A myth god. With this, he was finally set. But then, the system glitched. The vessel hasn't been formed. You cannot become Tyr's apostle. Dumrock froze. What did that even mean? He was being told to draw a card all over again. Even Tyr was blindsided. The god himself was completely bewildered by this mess. This wasn't how the game was supposed to work. Normally, a goddess appears and gives you a revelation. But for Dumrock, the rules were breaking. Something was very wrong. Kaiser finally realized how he'd screwed up. By killing the demon lord spawn, he skipped the one thing he needed. The goddess never appeared, and without her revelation, he was stuck in limbo. He checked his status window, hoping for a miracle, but it wasn't there. Where it should say apostle, it just said adventurer. The system was locking him out. He was standing there, with all these powerful cards, and they were completely useless. What was he supposed to do now? Every draw would be the same, just another error message, about lacking a vessel. He'd waited so long for this, worked so hard to get here, and now, it all felt like a total waste. Kaiser was at rock bottom. He was actually thinking about deleting his character and starting all over again, but that meant waiting 60 days just to play the game. He was completely stuck. Then, something caught his eye, a card glowing red, right there in the dirt. He'd never even heard of a red tier card. This shouldn't exist. He reached out, and the system went wild. You have selected a hidden card, the Forgotten Last Adventurer, KCR. Suddenly, everything made sense. The system didn't reject him, it was waiting for this. You possess the vessel of an adventurer. You have become KCR's apostle. This was it, the ultimate hidden piece. He wasn't just a low-level player, he was the only one who could claim this power. The class skills started flooding in. The real game was finally beginning. The lore was insane. Humanity used to be a race of adventurers, the masters of everything, until they were defeated. And now, Kaiser was the last one left, carrying that legacy. Then he saw the unique ability, and it was a total gamebreaker. He could use any skill, regardless of class restrictions. That's crazy. He couldn't believe his luck. This meant he could pick and choose the best powers from every single class. He started planning it out, a custom skill tree with only the most lethal abilities. It was a total no-brainer, but it got even better. He already had the Eye of Truth to find exactly what he needed, and if he stacked that with his weapon master trait, he wouldn't just be strong, he'd be an all-master, a player with zero weaknesses. The game was about to find out what happens when you give the wrong person too much power. It was a done deal. The class advancement was finally complete, and the system was already prepping his transport. The countdown started. 5 seconds until he'd be dropped right into Aftartel. Kaiser looked at his hands, feeling the power of his new class. With this, everything was different. He had a real shot now. It was definitely worth trying one more time. He wasn't just playing to survive anymore. He was playing to win. His goal was simple. He was going to be a ranker. The world better get ready, because he was officially back in the game. Welcome to Aftartel, the city of beginnings. This is where every journey in this world starts. But the vibe here isn't exactly heroic. Most players are just complaining about their luck. One guy was devastated. My gacha pull got completely screwed. His buddy tried to help. Just hang in there. There's plenty to do here, even without a combat class. But then, you've got these guys, the scouters. They look like corporate sharks in suits, always hunting for the next big talent. One of them sighed. There's nobody useful here today. They're basically recruiters, looking for new blood to join the big guilds. But the reality is, most players treat them like annoying street salesmen. Nobody wants to be bothered. In a city full of rookies, finding a diamond in the rough is harder than it looks. The pressure was on. One of the scouters was losing his mind, trying to hit his monthly quota. His manager was already giving him a hard time, and the day wasn't getting any better. Then his partner spotted someone in the crowd. Hey, look at that guy. They both stared at Kaiser, but they didn't see a hero. They saw a total train wreck. His partner shook his head. His mental state is completely shattered. Let's just go. They walked away, thinking he was a lost cause. But man, did they get it wrong? They totally judged a book by its cover. Because Kaiser wasn't broken, he was just busy hitting the absolute jackpot. He was staring at the necklace of blood in Covenant, a hero tier item, linked to Charlie himself. The stats were insane, defense and magic resistance, that scaled with his level. It was a dream come true. Kaiser couldn't help it. The feeling of power was just too good. So incredibly sweet. While the experts walked away empty-handed, he was standing there, becoming the strongest player in the entire city. Right then, a new notification popped up for everyone. A goblin cleanup quest just went live. Kaiser was surprised. It wasn't just for him. The whole city got the same alert. A hunter named Dante was standing in the square, shouting at the top of his lungs. He was fired up. Go out there and massacre those goblins. Suddenly, the streets turned into total chaos. Every player in sight was looking for a squad. People were screaming for tanks and healers, trying to rush their way straight to level 12. Kaiser watched them, all pairing up. It looked like nobody wanted to go at this alone. But then, someone tapped him on the shoulder. A guy with a grin asked him directly, "Hey, wanna join us? We're grinding to level 12. It was the perfect timing, but in a game like this, joining a random party can be a huge gamble. The offer was simple: team up, get the party bonus, and hunt together. Kaiser didn't have to think twice about it. In a game like this, going solo is just slow. The math was obvious. More people meant easier kills and way more EXP. So he gave them the green light. Sounds good, let's party up. Just like that, Shieldy Best's party was officially formed. Everyone was level 1, starting from scratch. But as soon as the names popped up, the leader noticed something interesting. Shield Best asked him, with a grin, "Oh, are you a Kaiser fan?" Kaiser played it cool, acting like he didn't have a clue. "Kaiser? Who's that?" The archer laughed. "He's the legend, the rank 1 player from the Dumrock days." He looked at Kaiser, totally convinced. "You must be a huge fan to use his name like that." Kaiser just nodded along. It was the perfect cover. Nobody would ever guess. The real legend was standing right there. The whole squad was hyped up and ready. "All right, shall we get going?" Shield Best was leading the charge, determined to hit level 12 before the day was over. "Let's go!" Kaiser joined in, cheering with the rest of them. It was time to see what this team could really do. They didn't have to wait long for action. A green goblin appeared, and Shield Best moved in fast. He slammed his massive shield right into the monster. A system alert popped up. The goblin was stunned. It was the perfect opening. I landed a bash. "Everyone, attack!" The team didn't waste a single second. The archer took aim for the head. Right beside him, the mage unleashed her power. Mana bolt. It was total teamwork. The combined attacks hit the target dead on, and the goblin stood no chance. The notification was clear. "You have defeated a green goblin." Their first kill was in the bag, but out in the wild, the real hunt was just getting started. Everything was fine, until it wasn't. Suddenly, the goblins swarmed them from every direction. The easy hunt just turned into a nightmare. The monsters were everywhere, screeching and lunging at the group. Shield Best stepped up, trying to block the path, but there were just too many of them. His teammates screamed as they saw him getting pushed back. Shield Appa." He was pinned down, struggling to hold his massive shield against the weight of the monsters. "Hurry up and grab it," he shouted, trying to keep the line from breaking. But then, he realized he was in serious trouble. Wait a second, my cooldown is still. He was stuck. His defensive skills weren't ready yet, and he couldn't move. Right then, one of the goblins launched itself high into the air. Shield Best looked up, and his heart sank. He was a sitting duck, and the real attack was coming from above. The goblin was mid-air, ready to finish the job, but before it could land, everything changed. A blue flash cut through the sky, and the monster was sliced in half. Before it even hit the ground, the system confirmed it. "You have defeated a green goblin." Shield Best couldn't believe it. He was just a sitting duck, and then, out of nowhere, he was saved. But Kaiser wasn't done. He became a total blur, moving across the field faster than anyone could follow. The archer and the mage just stood there. They couldn't even process what they were seeing. This wasn't the work of some random fanboy. This was a pro at work. One by one, the goblins fell. The notifications started piling up like a mountain. Kaiser moved with deadly precision, clearing the entire area in a matter of seconds. The threat was gone. Just like that, the field was quiet, except for the sound of his blade. Shield Best finally found his voice. "KO, nice one, Kaiser." The team was safe, but they all knew the guy they just recruited was definitely not who he said he was. The team was ecstatic. "Kaiser, you're the best," the mage shouted, cheering for their new MVP. Kaiser didn't say a word. He just quietly sheathed his blade, like it was no big deal. Shield Best walked over with a huge grin. "Good work, you're really skilled." He was already thinking about the future. "At this rate, we'll easily clear." But he spoke too soon. The celebration was about to be cut short. Kaiser sensed it first. He turned his head, just as Shieldy Best's face completely changed. Kaiser, behind you." The forest started screeching back at them. Kiek, Kiek, out of the shadows. It wasn't just a few scouts, it was a total army of goblins rushing toward them. They thought the fight was over, but the real nightmare was only just beginning. Shield Best took one look at the massive horde and completely lost it. "We can't handle this. Let's run for now," he shouted, already looking for a way out of there. But Kaiser wasn't listening. He didn't come here to run away. Kaiser! Shield Best screamed, as he watched his teammate charge straight into the mouth of the beast. It looked like a total death wish. One man against an entire army of screeching monsters. Kaiser launched himself high into the air, soaring right over the front lines. The goblins looked up, thinking they had an easy target, but they were dead wrong. Right then, everything shifted. The air felt different, and those blue eyes turned a deadly red. Dumrock was taking over, and he wasn't planning on leaving anyone alive. He gripped his blade and let out a massive burst of power. A giant explosion ripped through the forest, leveling everything in its path. The ground shook, and the entire sky turned a blinding blue. The hunt wasn't over. It was just getting started. Purple Taste finally had enough, and called out the elephant in the room. Why do you always pick the worst times to start a fight? Are you some kind of gladiator? Dumrock didn't even blink. Reckless? What's that supposed to mean? Purple Taste couldn't believe his ears. Jumping into a boss fight with 0 health. That's the definition of reckless. But Dumrock just shrugged it off. Hey, a win is a win, right? Purple Taste was speechless. The guy had a point, but this luck was bound to run out soon. Dumrock couldn't stop thinking about that reckless comment. Maybe it looks that way from the outside, but there's a method to the madness. Suddenly, a massive horde of goblins swarmed the field. Shield Best completely lost it. We can't win this. We need to get out of here now. But Kaiser didn't move back. He moved in. While everyone else saw a suicide mission, he saw an opening. I don't do reckless. I just do what needs to be done. And just like that, he dove straight into the meat grinder. Kaiser didn't hesitate for a second. He wasn't being brave. He was being realistic. I don't pick fights. I can't finish. He dropped from the sky, like a meteor, and triggered his smash skill. The impact was massive. The entire forest shook, as the system confirmed the kill. 1 hit, 1 critical, and the horde was already thinning out. To the others, this was a nightmare. But for Kaiser, it was just another day at the office. Kaiser was hunting. There was only one poison dart goblin left. Rule number 1, when you're outnumbered, kill the snipers first. He cut through the crowd, ignoring the small fry, to reach the real threat. The last goblin tried to fire, but it was already too late. Right then, the system glitched out, and a new notification popped up. Trait overcome, activated. He wasn't just winning anymore, he was breaking the game. Kaiser didn't give them a single second to breathe. He moved like a blur, cutting through the front line, before they even realized he was there. One goblin tried to scream, but the blade was faster. He pivoted on a dime, and brought his sword down, with enough force to shatter bone. They tried to block, but against this kind of power, a shield is just a piece of scrap metal. Kaiser snatched a falling dagger, right out of the air, and everything changed. His weapon master trait kicked in, removing every restriction on what he could use. He looked at the blade and laughed. Well, look at this. Suddenly, a new skill unlocked. Exploit weakness. He didn't waste a second. He drove the blade straight into a goblin's skull, landing a perfect critical hit. The system confirmed it. He wasn't just a warrior anymore. He was an assassin, and the real slaughter was just beginning. Kaiser wasn't just using his own gear anymore. He grabbed their own weapon, right out of the air. His weapon master trait erased every rule in the book, allowing him to use a heavy club, like he'd practiced with it for years. He didn't even slow down. While his dagger found a throat, he activated a new skill. Swing. The impact was devastating. He wasn't just fighting, he was leveling up on the fly. The system couldn't even keep up with the notifications. His mastery was skyrocketing. With every drop of blood spilled, the dust settled, and the notifications started rolling in. Kaiser's mastery was hitting new levels. Before the blood even dried, he looked at his hands and laughed. This is pretty good, isn't it? He knew he could learn any skill, but using them like a pro instantly? That was way better than he expected. But from the shadows, Shield Best was watching, and he couldn't believe his eyes. He said quietly, "Does this even make sense?" He knew the truth. Even a top-tier, experienced party would have to sweat just to take down a pack like this, but Kaiser did it alone, without breaking a stride, and Shield Best realized he wasn't just looking at a rookie, he was looking at a monster. Shield Best couldn't believe it. One guy, taking out an entire pack alone? Then he saw the name, Kaiser. A memory hit him, from the old Dumrock days. Could it really be him? No way. That Kaiser was a genius ranker, who vanished without a trace. 2 years ago, people used to talk about him, all the time, wondering where the legend went. After the game shut down, Shield Best shook his head. It makes no sense. A guy like that just happens to be in my party today? But if it's not him, then who exactly? Is this monster standing in front of me? Kaiser was riding a total adrenaline high. He looked completely unhinged, shouting about how sweet the victory felt. Shield Best watched from the side, totally creeped out. He said to himself, "This guy is actually crazy." But Kaiser didn't care. He watched the stolen weapons vanish into thin air. Since they weren't official loot, it didn't matter though. He'd already bypassed the weapon restrictions and used skills he shouldn't have. That was more than enough. He pulled up his status window, and even he was surprised. 3 level UPS. From just one hunt? At this rate, nobody's going to be able to touch him. Kaiser knew he could use any weapon he wanted, but the sword was still his foundation. He started stacking his points into strength and agility, balancing everything out to become a perfect dealer. He wasn't worried about his other stats. His legendary titles and Charlie's necklace already had him covered. The rest of the party was basically fanboying. Shield Best said, "I'm completely in awe, bro. You're seriously amazing." They started wondering if he actually was the legendary Kaiser from the old days. The archer laughed it off. The real guy has been quiet for years. Why would he show up now? But Shield Best couldn't shake the feeling. The way he fights, it's the only thing that makes sense. He really does look like the real deal. The irony here is wild. The archer said he'd actually believe it if Kaiser was the real legend. Kaiser just laughed it off. But inside, he knew the truth. He really is that guy. The party couldn't get over his insane damage. They asked if he'd pulled some god-tier mythic gear out of nowhere. Kaiser played it cool. He told them it was just his traits and a bit of luck. With a new title, the whole vibe changed. Immediately, Shield Best asked if he was planning on becoming a top ranker. The mage didn't waste time. She joked about getting on his good side while she still could. But the break was over. Shield Best checked their stats and gave the signal. Their stamina was back, and it was time to get back to the hunt. The party was feeling absolutely invincible. The archer shouted, "Let's pull 10 of them." At the same time, Kaiser just laughed and went along with it. He was the secret weapon, making them feel like they couldn't lose. They charged forward, full of energy, shouting for Shield Best to lead the way, because they had Kaiser backing them up. But as they ran, something clicked in Kaiser's mind. The word ranker brought back memories. He remembered his old squad, Kukakikin and the others, bickering over loot and calling each other scrubs, just like the old days. They were the real deal, the elite of the elite, always moving fast and pushing the limits. As he looked up at the clear sky, he couldn't help but wonder, what is everyone else up to right now? But there's a catch. This place is a literal death trap, where nobody survives the first run. They call this place Arde's Tomb, and trust me, none of its nicknames are good. The monsters here are on a whole different level, but the real nightmare? You have to be perfectly in sync with your team. When you mix those two together, you get the newbie slayer. The man with the shield groaned, "Is this place even possible to beat?" His partner snapped back, "I'd rather just go solo. My teammates make me want to hit something." The girl with the staff could only sigh, "This is gonna be a long day." The man with the headband sighed, "We have to clear this. If we fail here, we're finished for the next raids." Dumrock watched them from the shadows. He knew the guy was right. In the real world, nobody wants to hire a rookie. And this game? It's exactly the same. Look at the recruitment boards. Every top guild is looking for the same thing: experience. Some people think they can just lie, or find a way to cheat the system, but that doesn't work in GOs. Everything you do, every monster you kill, it's all recorded right here, in the book of adventures. In this world, your past is an open book, and there's nowhere to hide. From the quests you take, to the bosses you take down, everything is tracked. Every single move you make is burned into that book. It's your permanent record. Dumrock knew the stakes. If you want to join the big leagues, you need a resume that shines. Right now, they have no choice but to push through and clear this dungeon, because the boss waiting for them isn't just another monster. It's a mandatory kill, and there's no way around it. This single step was the start of something much bigger. The massive doors finally groaned open, revealing the path to a rare great dungeon, the habitat of the Varian Goblin Warrior. Dumrock looked back at the group. "Well then, shall we head in?" The girl with the staff nodded quickly. "I'm ready. I've read the strategy guide 10 times. I won't mess this up." They were all trying to stay cool, but the tension in the cave was thick enough to cut. The man with the shield reached out to the glowing barrier. "Then let's enter." One more step, and there was no turning back. The real fight was about to begin. The system prompt flashed. Shield Best was making the call to enter the boss's habitat. The leader shouted, "Let's go." The rest of the team didn't hesitate. "Yeah, yes." The system ran its final checks. Levels confirmed. Party size confirmed. The path was finally open. They stood before the dark abyss of the goblin's lair, where most players would be shaking. But Dumrock just cracked his knuckles. "It's been a while. Let's warm up." For him, this wasn't a life or death struggle. It was just the beginning of the hunt. The group stepped deeper into the heart of the cave, where the air felt heavy. Right in the center, a massive shadow was waiting, surrounded by flickering flames. The system window popped up, and the numbers didn't look good. 20,000 HP, and a title that meant trouble. Elite boss. This wasn't just any goblin, he was once the greatest warrior of his tribe, until a curse took his sanity, and turned him into a monster. He gripped his massive blade, and let out a low growl. The warm-up was officially over. The goblin let out a roar that shook the entire chamber. This was the power of an elite boss. The ground shattered as the monster launched itself into the air. The girl with the staff could barely believe it. This is still just a game, right? Dumrock shouted a warning. It's coming. Shieldbest raised his shield, but he knew they were in trouble. No matter how good Dumrock was, he couldn't protect everyone at once. The gap in power was too huge, and the boss was already right on top of them. At the very least, I have to do my part. Shieldbest wasn't going to let his team down now. The goblin let out a massive roar and lunged forward. Shieldbest didn't panic. Everyone, scatter. The team split up in a second, leaving the tank alone to face the monster's rage. The first pattern is a charge. He saw it coming and braced for the impact. The boss slammed into his shield with enough force to break a mountain, but Shieldbest held his ground. The real fight was just starting. The impact actually worked. A system window flashed, confirming the boss was stunned. 2 seconds. That's all they had. Shieldbest didn't waste a breath. Now's our chance. The archer and the mage unleashed everything at once. The backline finally opened fire. With their strongest skills, everything exploded. In a massive flash of blue light, it looked like a direct hit. But as the smoke cleared, the goblin was still standing. Those red eyes didn't even flicker. This was gonna be a long night. The boss didn't stay down for long. It swung a massive stone blade, with enough power to crush anything in its path. Shieldbest dug his heels in, and took the hit head-on. Right then, a hidden trait kicked in. His defense and stamina spiked. As long as his team was behind him, he wasn't going anywhere. I've got the aggro. He held the monster's attention, locking it in place. That's exactly what they needed. High above the chaos, Dumrock saw the perfect opening, and began his descent. The real counterattack starts now. Everything was going according to plan. The boss was taking hits, and Shieldbest felt like they had this in the bag. At this rate, Phase 1 was gonna be a breeze. But then, a warning came from the back. Shield, the pattern is coming. Shieldbest was confused. The next phase shouldn't trigger until the boss hit half health. The math was off. But then he saw the bar. The HP just dipped, under 10,000. They were out of time. Suddenly, the air turned red. The boss wasn't waiting for them to get ready. Everything just went sideways. Out of nowhere, a blue streak ripped through the battlefield. The boss never saw it coming. That massive red energy was cut short. The monster's scream said it all. He didn't just block the attack, he broke it. Shieldbest looked up, realizing the pressure was gone. The timing was perfect. Dumrock finally made his move, sliding into position, with a look that meant trouble. The boss's big move? It's over. The pattern is finished. Now, it's Dumrock's turn. Kaiser's party is legendary. They've cleared every impossible dungeon, so the world wants to know, what's the secret to their success? Kaiser just shrugged it off. He said everyone just does what they're best at. But the interviewer wasn't buying it. Standard teams need a tank to survive the front lines. Without someone to take the hits, a raid should be impossible. But Kaiser's team doesn't have one. He knows tanks are important, but for his group, the rules are a bit different. Kaiser explained that a tank is the most important part of a raid. They take the hits and break the boss's rhythm. Then he dropped the bombshell. That's why I do it. The interviewer couldn't believe it. The leader of the world's top party is also their shield? On the battlefield, even the pros were losing it. Shieldbest watched the chaos unfold, and couldn't find the words. Nothing about this made any sense. Even the best tanks in the world struggle to stop a boss like this. They usually need every skill in the book just to survive one hit. But Kaiser was breaking all the rules. He wasn't using any special skills. He was just stopping it with pure timing and power. And he's doing all of this while playing as a DPS. It's completely unheard of. The monster let out a massive roar, but Kaiser didn't even blink. A pattern of this level? To him, it was absolutely nothing. With one clean strike, he proved he's on a level nobody else can even touch. The team couldn't believe their eyes. Kaiser was targeting every vital point with surgical precision. He wasn't just attacking, he was shutting the boss down, interrupting every single pattern before it could even start. But the momentum was about to shift. The boss's health dropped to 20%, and the air in the room changed. Shieldbest saw it coming. Everyone, get ready for phase 2. The team braced themselves as the system confirmed the worst. The real nightmare was just getting started. Right then, everything flipped. The system confirmed the worst. The boss entered a berserk state. But that was just the beginning. Kaiser saw it immediately. The mutant trait was finally here. This wasn't a normal boss. It was granted 2 unique abilities that turned the raid into a death trap. It's a mechanic known as 007 Bang. If the party lands too many physical hits, everyone gets hit with a massive debuff. And magic isn't an option either. Too many spells in a row, and all that damage comes flying right back at them. One wrong move now, and the entire party is dead underscore. The boss let out a massive roar, and everything went sideways. A red aura washed over the room, slowing everyone's movement to a crawl. The archer couldn't believe it. It's hard enough fighting this thing, but now we're hit with a debuff too? The team was falling apart. But then, the system pinged for Kaiser. His hero trait was kicking in, protecting him from mental contamination, and ignoring the berserk effect entirely. He was even immune to the mutant trait. Kaiser realized it immediately. So these debuffs don't apply to me at all? While Shield Best ordered the team to stop attacking and just focus on dodging, Kaiser was the only one who could still move at full speed. The rules of the raid didn't apply to him anymore. Shield Best was starting to panic. You don't have a way around this, do you, Kaiser? But Kaiser was already moving. Just wait for a moment, he said calmly. While the rest of the team was paralyzed by the boss's traits, Kaiser was taking matters into his own hands. I'll go slice it up. Shield Best could only watch as Kaiser ignored every warning and launched himself straight at the monster. He was going for the kill, alone against a boss that nobody else could even touch. Kaiser moved like a ghost, shredding through the boss, while everyone else was frozen. The team couldn't believe it. We're all paralyzed by debuffs, so how is he still moving? But Shield Best saw something the others missed. This wasn't just high damage, this was something else entirely. Everything clicked for him. The way Kaiser moved, the way he controlled the fight, it all looked way too familiar. That figure, he looks just like. Before he could finish the thought, Kaiser delivered a blow that shook the entire dungeon underscore. Shield Best could only watch as the boss was ripped apart. A god of battle. That was the only way to describe it. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a total slaughter. Kaiser was moving with a precision that didn't even seem human. Every strike landed perfectly. Every move was calculated. The monster didn't stand a chance. Shield Best whispered his name, Kaiser. He finally realized the truth. The man standing in front of him was on a whole different level than anyone he'd ever met. Kaiser was moving so fast, the system could barely keep up. Leveling up mid-fight? That's almost unheard of. His swordsmanship was evolving, with every single swing, reaching level 7. In the heat of battle, the damage was stacking up, and with the fury effect kicking in, he was hitting 10% harder. With every strike, he wasn't just fighting the boss, he was outgrowing it, and by the look of things, he's just getting started. One final strike was all it took. The massive beast didn't stand a chance. As it finally hit the ground, the system confirmed it. The dungeon was cleared, and the boss was dead. The rest of the team couldn't believe their eyes. That's insane. Wow. But Shield Best wasn't celebrating. He was looking at Kaiser with a completely different expression. The archer noticed his silence. Hyung, what about him? Shield Best didn't look away. Something about Kaiser wasn't adding up. Shield Best dropped a bombshell. Could it be that he's the real Kaiser? The archer couldn't believe it. What? The legendary player was standing right in front of them? Then the system notifications started flooding in. The time limit calculation was done, and they didn't just win, they reclaimed first place, shattering the old record. The rankings didn't lie. Kaiser was at the very top. He took the #1 spot for total contribution, leaving everyone else in the dust. The rewards were massive. Rare gear from the boss was already being granted. Everything changed in a second. They weren't just a random party anymore. They were with a legend. The rewards didn't stop at just a victory. Kaiser just scored the mutant goblin's red greatsword, but the real prize was the new title, Throne of the Time Attack. This wasn't just any title, it was hero grade, granted only to the best of the best. The effects were insane. Every time he breaks a record, his stats will climb even higher. He's not just a top player anymore, he's becoming a force that scales with his own success. Kaiser wasn't looking for a long fight, he ended it in a single strike. The system confirmed the kill, and the results were insane. He didn't just clear the dungeon, he snatched the top spot on the leaderboard. The record was officially broken, and the game was just getting started. Kaiser officially took the crown, and the rewards were on another level. The loot just kept coming, new gear and a massive title, the Throne of the Time Attack. This wasn't just a trophy, it was a hero grade boost that scales every time he wins. Kaiser just sighed. As I thought, goblins are always the same. He's playing a different game now, and the gap is only getting wider. Kaiser had a simple philosophy: monsters are always best when they're sliced thin. The rest of the team couldn't believe their eyes. They were staring at hero-grade rewards and rare options they'd never seen. Shield Best couldn't stop thanking him. We couldn't have dreamed of this without you, Hyung Nim. Kaiser just laughed it off. It was nothing. But before they could move on, the girl stopped him. She had something else to say. Shield Best had something on his mind. He asked Kaiser to check the rankings, and the results were awkward. The top spot was officially taken, but it was under the name Best Shields Party. Shield Best felt like he'd messed up. I should have changed the name. I'm truly sorry. Kaiser didn't mind at all. He realized something much bigger was happening here. Having your name at number 1 is a massive privilege, even in a beginner city. This single achievement was enough to get them noticed by the top 10 guilds in the world. They were finally on the map, and everyone was watching. There was someone else on Kaiser's mind, a player named Annihilation, someone even higher than the rest. Shieldbest was still feeling guilty. We're so sorry for the trouble. We'll pay you back, whatever it takes. Kaiser just smiled. It's fine, these things happen. He told them the ranking wasn't a big deal anyway, and he didn't expect to win. Shieldbest couldn't believe how humble he was being, but Kaiser was playing a different game. The spotlight? Getting all that attention is just tiring. For Kaiser, the fame meant nothing. The rewards were the only thing that actually mattered. The rewards were even better than he expected. The legendary warrior set, everything from the armor to the massive red greatsword, was rare grade or higher. These are easily the best items anyone can get in this area. With loot like this, there's no way he could be mad. Shieldbest was still worried. Is it really okay? Kaiser snapped back to reality and played it cool. Yep, it's totally fine, he told Shieldbest to finally drop the guilt. He'd already gotten exactly what he wanted. The party was totally sold. Shieldbest was ready to follow Kaiser anywhere. The others were cheering too. They'd never seen anyone with this much class. As the dungeon timer ran out, Shieldbest made a confession to his teammate. I thought the hype around him was just talk, that people were exaggerating, but seeing him in action, now I get it. This guy is the real deal. Kaiser was already at the exit, waiting for them to catch up. Aren't you guys coming? Shieldbest didn't hesitate. He was all in now, and the real journey was just getting started. Just like that, the dungeon was behind them. The party touched down, right in the heart of the city. They headed straight for a quiet spot in the Arde back alleys. But as soon as they stepped inside, the mage couldn't believe it. Oh, it's so different from the outside. She looked around in awe. It's like magic. How can it be this different? The shop looked ordinary from the street, but the real secret was hidden behind the door. Kaiser stepped into the shop, but the welcome wasn't exactly warm. A hooded man named Kalda was waiting behind the counter. Who the hell are you lot? He snapped. The party wasn't feeling the vibe at all. The archer and mage already wanted to leave, but Shieldbest told them to keep it down. Kalda didn't stop there. He assumed they were quitters. I still need blood for my research. He started to grumble, but Kaiser didn't say a word. He just slammed a vial right onto the counter. Kalda's attitude flipped in a heartbeat. This is the blood of a mutant goblin. He couldn't believe his eyes. You already got it? It hasn't even been 40 minutes. The alchemist was losing it. Nobody finishes a job that fast. That's right. Kaiser said it with total confidence. Kalda was blown away to catch that mutant so quickly. It's incredible. Right then, Kaiser's special title kicked in. The alchemist didn't just respect him now, he was a total fan. Then the rewards started flooding the screen. Gold, gear, and a massive double level up. But the biggest prize was the one they'd all been waiting for. Trial 0 was officially cleared. The system gave them the green light. You may now move to the main continent. The party absolutely lost it. Finally, the big leagues. They were leaving the back alleys behind. The real game was about to begin. A special reward? Kaiser looked at the postcard from the alchemist, but he could worry about that later. This was the one that really mattered. A low-grade draw ticket. He'd been waiting for this exact moment ever since the Pantheon. He pulled the trigger, and the cards started to spin. Light exploded all around the alley. But Kaiser wasn't impressed. Compared to what he'd seen before, this lacked a bit of aura. There was only one way to see if he got lucky. Eye of Truth activated. His vision shifted. It was time to see what he'd really pulled. Since it was just a low-grade ticket, Kaiser wasn't expecting much. He pulled a skill called Charging Slash. It was only common grade, but he wasn't complaining. He'd used this one plenty of times back in Dumrock. But that wasn't the main event. The real prize was the random ticket, the one that could drop anything up to legendary. He was ready to roll the dice. But then, everything went sideways. Forced shutdown in 5 seconds. What? Kaiser couldn't believe it. The connection time limit just hit 0. A system designed to prevent addiction just killed his big moment, right when it mattered most. He was getting kicked out. He'd been sucked in so deep, Kaiser didn't even notice. The sun going down. 10 hours? Already. The system didn't care. The countdown started, and it was moving fast. 3 seconds. That's all he had left. But the draw was still spinning. Kaiser was practically begging the screen to move faster. Hurry, just one more second. 2 seconds. The cards were glowing. The result was right there. 1 second. He reached out, trying to grab the answer before the world vanished. But time ran out. Connection ended. Forced shutdown initiated. Everything went black. Right at the finish line, he was left in the dark. The clock is literally running out. Do-hyun just needs one more second. Hurry, please just hurry up. But the system doesn't care. Everything's going sideways, at the worst possible timing. The connection is dead, and he's being kicked out. Before he can even see the result, the transition is starting, and it's hitting Do-hyun, all at once. He can't hold it back anymore. Everything's flipping, as the system forces him out. Just like that, the nightmare is over, and he's finally back in reality. 10 o'clock on the dot, Do-hyun said with a grin. It worked. There's no time to waste. He's diving right back in. Before the chance slips away, the system recognizes him immediately. Retina scan, ID verified. Everything is green across the board. Synchronization is complete. He's leaving the real world behind, for the paradise of adventure. Do-hyun ducks into a back alley. He needs to see it right now. The yellow light he saw earlier, it had to be something big. But when the system opens, the disappointment hits hard. It's not a legendary grade. Maybe his luck finally ran out. But then the real prize shows up. Heroic grade, backstab. This one skill is about to change his entire game. This is the ultimate assassin move. The number one reason ranged players stay far away. No matter how much distance they pull, this skill closes the gap in a single second. Do-hyun can't believe his luck. If he keeps stacking skills like this, he'll be unstoppable in any fight. Right then, he hears someone bragging nearby. The man said confidently, "Don't worry, I've studied the strategy guide. I'll handle everything." His companion asked, "Really?" The man laughed. "Of course." Do-hyun paused. Something about that didn't sound right. Do-hyun is so locked in, he doesn't even realize how terrifying he looks right now. The woman whispered, "Doesn't he look like a total psycho?" The man didn't wait around. Let's just take a different path." They scrambled away, leaving Do-hyun standing there, completely confused. He didn't let it bother him for long. He had bigger things on his mind, like finally testing out his new loot. Time to gear up. Rare grade leather, heavy pauldrons, and a massive red greatsword. With this setup, nobody's going to mess with him anytime soon. Do-hyun is finally ready. It's time to hit the big leagues. The main continent is calling. The system gives a final warning. Once he leaves, there's no coming back to this place. As the portal opens, he's actually feeling a bit sentimental. He left his old crew without even saying goodbye. It's a shame, but in this game, you have to keep moving forward. The countdown hits 0. Our day is officially in the past. The real journey starts now. The transition is complete. Leaving the beginner zone is a huge deal for any player. Everyone arrives here with big dreams and even bigger expectations. This isn't like the tutorial, where everyone was split up by their own countries. In this place, every server comes together to form the ultimate teams. Do-hyun finally steps out into the heart of the action. The first city, Raven. This is where the real game begins. The second he steps inside, Do-hyun realizes the local authorities aren't playing around. The Raven Knights charge through, clearing the path, while dragging a prisoner behind them. Right then, the system notifications explode. The training wheels are officially off. Beginner benefits are gone, but the real features are finally unlocked. The arena, duels, and the workshops. Do-hyun can't help but be impressed. This place is the real deal. Even the locals are noticing him. A merchant shouts out, "Hey mister, that red outfit really suits you." He's not just another newbie anymore. In a city like Raven, he's already standing out. The city of Raven is a total trap for adventurers. The food and the hospitality make it way too easy to get distracted. Do-hyun almost loses his edge, but he snaps himself back to reality. The fun stuff can wait. He's got a job to do. He heads straight for the gates, looking for his first target, Raven Plains. The transition is instant. 1 second he's in a peaceful city. The next, he's painting the grass red. These goblins didn't stand a chance. The training is over, and the real grind has officially begun. Do-hyun's new gear is a literal cheat code against these monsters. The set bonus kicks in, and the goblins are losing their minds. They're paralyzed by the awe effect before he even moves. He said with a smirk, "There's nothing like this against goblins." Then he closes the gap in a heartbeat with a leaping slash. The bonus damage is insane. He's not just fighting them, he's erasing them. The system notifications can barely keep up with the body count. At this rate, the entire plains will be empty by sunset. Do-hyun is absolutely loving this new warrior set. The more he hunts, the stronger his sword gets. The base stats are already high, but that extra damage makes him feel unstoppable. Bullying low-level mobs has never felt so good. He's breezing through quests, and he's just a few kills away from another level up. But right as he's riding this high, everything goes quiet. Wait, someone else is here. Deep in the woods, a mysterious figure is watching, and they don't look friendly. This guy is a total vulture. He sees Do-hyun's expensive gear and thinks he's found an easy meal. The assassin laughed. "There's no prey as delicious As a newbie with lots of money, he lunges in for the kill, expecting a quick payday, but he just hit a brick wall. Do-hyun doesn't even move. He blocks the strike, like it was nothing. The predator's face says it all. He thought he was hunting a sheep, but he just walked straight into a lion's den. Now the tables have turned, and there's nowhere left to run. The leader is losing his cool. He screamed at his men. "What are you guys doing? Finish him off already." The archer lets fly a volley of glowing arrows, but Do-hyun doesn't even flinch. He swats them away like flies, with one sweep of his blade. Then comes the heavy hitter. The axeman charges in, screaming at the top of his lungs. He puts everything into one massive swing, but he just hit a wall of steel. Do-hyun didn't just block it, he completely shut him down. The power gap is insane. These guys aren't hunters anymore. They're just targets. The ambush is over. It's a total massacre. Do-hyun is moving so fast, they can't even see the strikes. The leader is losing his mind. This wasn't supposed to happen. No newbie should be this strong. He tries to make a break for it, but the system just locked him in. A mark is created. There's nowhere left to run. Do-hyun appears right behind him, like a ghost in the dark. He's not just winning, he's enjoying every second of this. He leaned in and whispered, "Are you lost? No matter where you go, there are always people who just won't listen. And this game is no different. It's not about fair fights, or the official arena. This is about hunting people, for no reason at all." In other words, pikers. They were a nightmare in Dumrock, and they're just as bad here in God of SE. Whether it's for the loot, or just for fun, it doesn't really matter. But if you ask anyone who the real monsters are, they'll all say the same thing. They're called noob slayers, the absolute bottom feeders of the gaming world. They wait for beginners to leave the starting village, then take everything they have. And right now, one of them is standing directly in front of me. Dumrock grinned. "Lost your way? Wait, a backstab? That's impossible. He's a swordsman. How the hell is he using a skill like that?" The fight was over before it even really started. The system messages said it all. Dumrock didn't even break a sweat. The guys he just took down were flagged as total evildoers. Since it was self-defense, his karma stayed clean. This world is just like Dumrock. Most players you meet are absolute trash, looking for an easy kill. There was one exception though, a group back in our day, who were actually decent people. But guys like that are rare. In this reality, you're mostly surrounded by bastards. Time to move on and cash in on all that work. The rewards started rolling in. Silver, experience, and even a rare necklace. Everything was going perfectly. Then the notification popped up. Level 17 reached. The west gate was finally open. Dumrock stood before the massive doors. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. But Raven West Forest isn't just another map. It's a total death trap. Even the NPCs in this world stay as far away as possible, and they'll warn you to do the same. But for Dumrock, the real game was just getting started. Forget the open plains of the East Gate. This place is a different beast. The West Forest is so thick, you can't see a thing, and the danger is everywhere. It's swarming with goblins and massive insects waiting in the shadows. One wrong step, and you're dead before you even see the attack. The difficulty here is totally off the charts, so players made a rule: never go in alone. A party of 3 is the bare minimum for survival. That's why the West Gate is always packed with people looking for a team, because entering those woods solo isn't just brave, it's a death sentence. The West Gate was a mess. Everyone was screaming, desperate to find a squad. The forest is so deadly that nobody dares to go in without a full team. But there's one problem: healers are impossible to find. Nobody wants to play them. While everyone was begging for a single teammate, one man caught their attention. Dumrock walked right past, heading straight for the gate, completely on his own. The crowd couldn't believe it. To them, he was just another fool. Even the top rankers don't go in there solo. It's basically a suicide mission. They watched him walk away, thinking he'd be dead within the hour. Dumrock didn't hesitate. He stepped into the darkness of the Raven West Forest. While everyone else was busy being terrified, he went straight to work. The red goblins didn't even stand a chance. He's tearing them apart. The system notifications couldn't even keep up with the body count. One by one, they're falling like flies. It's a total bloodbath. To the rest of the world, this place is a nightmare. But for him, it's just another day at the office. The speed of this fight is absolutely insane. Dumrock isn't just winning, he's swinging that massive blade like it weighs nothing, and the impact is devastating. The goblins can't even react. 1 second they're charging, the next they're airborne. It's not even a contest. He's turning the entire forest into a graveyard. Every strike he lands sends shockwaves through the dirt, leaving nothing but craters. This is the place everyone was so afraid of, because right now, Dumrock is making it look like a total walk in the park. The goblins thought they had him surrounded, but they were dead wrong. Dumrock didn't even blink. He's clearing the entire area. in one massive swing. They didn't see it coming. 1 second they're closing in, the next they're being erased. He's moving so fast. The air itself is screaming, under the weight of that blade. It's not a fight anymore. It's a total wipeout. And he's just getting started. The forest is going silent, because there's nobody left to scream. Talk about total disrespect. Dumrock is actually turning off his main warrior gear. The goblins think they've finally got a chance, but he's just mocking them. He said coldly, "Don't need the set for trash like this." Suddenly everything flips. His weapon restrictions are gone, because he's a weapon master. He's not just a warrior. He's got every skill in the book unlocked. Before that goblin could even finish its scream, he's already behind it. Using a backstab skill, he ends the fight in a single second. When he plays like this, it's not a battle, it's just a execution. He's breaking out the heavy tools now, using a basic axe skill. One smash is all it takes to turn these goblins into a total mess. Dumrock laughed. Ha, axes feel good too. He's actually having a blast, leveling up his skills, right in the middle of the chaos. The system can barely keep up with how fast he's dropping these things. His proficiency is already climbing, and he's just getting warmed up with this blade. This isn't even a challenge, it's just total overkill. The goblin hunt is officially over, and Dumrock is already looking for his next prize. He said to himself, "Now for the pendant." And right then, something huge just crashed the party. The ground is literally splitting, as a massive nightmare bursts into the light. This isn't some low-level mob, this thing is a monster, in a completely different league. Dumrock just stood there, staring up at the beast, and said quietly, "Oh, shit, looks like the real challenge just found him first." Everything went sideways the second the ground split open. Kaiser didn't even see it coming, but there was no time to think. He had to move now, or get crushed in an instant. This wasn't just a fight, it was a total ambush. He swung with everything he had to end this before it really started. This wasn't even a contest. Kaiser knew exactly where to strike. One clean hit was all it took to tear that thing apart. The monster didn't stand a chance. It was over before it even started. Now the real question is, what else is hiding in these woods? This thing was getting way too close for comfort. Kaiser grunted in disgust. Ugh, it looks disgusting too. He'd finally had enough of this creature in his face. Why are you shoving your face in? With one massive swing, he turned that monster into a memory. That was a clean sweep. Kaiser didn't just win, he completely dominated. The system rewards started flooding in immediately. Level 19 already. He went up 2 levels, just from that one fight. It's pretty tough, but leveling is going quite well. The grind is finally paying off, and he's only getting started. Kaiser was on a roll. He'd cleared almost every quest on his list. There was only one left, a simple fetch quest for a lost pendant. This looked like an easy win. The location was already marked, so it should have been a walk in the park. But when he finally arrived, everything went sideways. A guard shouted to the crowd, "Alright, line up everyone, we're all busy, no cutting in line." Looks like he wasn't the only one with the same idea. The line was a total mess. Everyone was shoving and complaining, but Kaiser just wanted his item. He figured it'd be a quick wait until the guys in front of him started gossiping about an execution. They were talking about some griefer who finally crossed the line. But then, one of them mentioned a name. Apparently he was going around calling himself Kaiser or something? That hit a nerve. Why is my name coming up? Suddenly, this boring quest just got personal. The guy in front was laughing, thinking the rumors were just a stupid joke. Who'd believe a swordsman could use assassin skills? But Kaiser knew better. He's gotta lay low for a while. A guy with 6 traits? The big guilds won't stay quiet about someone that powerful. Some might try to recruit him, but most will just try to cut him down early. If they can't have him, they'll destroy him. That's just how they play. Kaiser finally grabbed the pendant, but he wasn't celebrating yet. He's not where he needs to be. He headed back to Raven City to find the little girl who lost her treasure. Camilla was thrilled. "Wow, this is my pendant. Thank you so much." That simple act of kindness pushed him over the edge. Quest completed. He finally hit the milestone, level 20, and the real game starts now. Camilla handed him a small box. "Since you're so kind, I want you to have this." Kaiser took the gift and gave the kid a quick warning, "Don't lose it again." He didn't expect much, but his special title kicked in, and Camilla's affinity skyrocketed. She's already a huge fan. Maybe it's because she's young, but that's a massive boost. He didn't stick around to celebrate. Time to move on to the next quest, Dungeon Subjugation. The reward is a skill draw ticket. There's no way he's passing this up. The grind never stops. Kaiser had 2 choices, the ant nest or the goblin den. The goblins had the better gear, so the choice was easy. But there was a catch. He needs a squad to get in, and he's not ready to show his hand to strangers yet. Revealing his unique skills now would be way too risky. He's gotta play it cool. When he reached the entrance, the place was a total zoo. Everyone was shouting at once. looking for a fire mage, level 20 plus only. Even the merchants were out, trying to make a quick buck on repairs and loot. This was gonna be complicated. Kaiser watched the drama unfold at the dungeon entrance, and it wasn't pretty. A thief tried to join a squad, but he got shut down immediately. We don't take thieves, have some shame. In this world, your class is everything. If you're a mage, you're treated like a god. Recruiters were literally begging for a magic user to join them. Mage, party with us, we've got the best gear. Kaiser realized the harsh truth. The meta for this dungeon is all about fire and spells. In here, mages are the only ones who matter. And swordsmen, guys like him are basically invisible. Just when Kaiser thought he was out of luck, someone actually called him out. Hey, you in the warrior set. It was Charlie, a high-level knight, offering him a spot in his squad. Would you like to join us? Kaiser was skeptical. He's a swordsman, and everyone knows this dungeon hates his class. But Charlie didn't care. He claimed they were just finishing up a quick quest, and levels didn't matter. Something smells fishy. This offer is way too good to be true. But Kaiser decided to play along. If that's the case, I'd be grateful. The party invite popped up, and that's when he saw it. Their names, their levels, everything was a red flag. He's walking straight into a trap, but he's not backing down. Let's see what these guys are really planning. This wasn't an accident. Charlie and his crew didn't just pick a random warrior out of the crowd. They were waiting for him. The friendly smiles are gone, and the real motive is finally coming to light. Kaiser just realized his biggest secret is out. They know exactly who I am. He thought he was playing them, but he might have just made a deadly mistake. The group spotted their target. That's him, Kaiser in the warrior set. Charlie didn't waste any time. Hey, you, wanna join our party? Kaiser was skeptical. You know I'm a swordsman, right? Charlie just laughed it off. That doesn't matter. We just need you for a quest. But those smiles, something's definitely wrong here. Everything's about to flip. Kaiser took the bait. If that's the case, I'd be grateful. Just like that, the party was formed. But look at the levels. He's the only one lagging behind. They headed straight for the nest. A rare dungeon, the goblin chieftain's habitat. The first kill was easy, but the system message changed everything. The boss already knows they're here, and there's no turning back now. Charlie and his crew were making this look easy, a total piece of cake. Even Kaiser was impressed. The power was solid, and the synergy was actually good. But then the system warned them. The chieftain was sending in the real soldiers. Right when things got serious, Charlie stepped back. Would you like to take this one, Kaiser? They're calling it a chance to sync up with the team, but Kaiser saw right through it. They're testing him to see if he's worth the trouble. Fine, I'll play along for a bit. Kaiser didn't hold back. He triggered charging slash and turned the battlefield into a total bloodbath. While he was busy shredding mobs, the others were just watching. That's him, Charlie said with a grin. We found the right one. Shield Best was actually impressed. He's fast for a guy carrying a massive greatsword. They've seen enough to know Kaiser is the perfect fit for whatever dark plans they're cooking up next. Shield Best was looking at Kaiser like a puzzle he couldn't solve. With gear like that, he shouldn't be falling behind. But something feels off. He couldn't wrap his head around it. How did a top-tier assassin with stealth and paralysis poison lose a 3-on-1 fight? Sure, Kaiser has the damage and speed, but the math just wasn't adding up. He's way too strong for someone at his level. The mage told them to stop overthinking it. All they had to do was finish the job. Charlie didn't need to hear anything else. Let's get this over with, he said with a smirk. Then shall we move in? Keep it together, Charlie whispered to the crew. Just act like everything is normal. Shield Best didn't even flinch. Don't worry about it, he said with a fake smile. Kaiser finished off the last of them, and the praise started pouring in. Wow, Kaiser, you're actually incredible. Charlie kept the act going, saying they only invited him as a backup, but it looks like he could have cleared this solo. Kaiser played his part perfectly, acting humble and impressed by their supposed skills. How did you even find someone this good? Charlie just laughed it off, claiming he has a natural eye for top-tier talent. But Kaiser wasn't buying it, leaving a teammate to fight alone, then acting this shameless. These guys have zero manners, and he's seen enough. Kaiser saw right through them. These guys weren't teammates, they were vultures, waiting for him to drop, so they could strip his corpse. Charlie called for the group to keep moving, acting like the perfect leader, while everyone played along. But the real threat was lurking in the shadows. The assassin was just waiting for the perfect moment to end him quietly. Kaiser didn't flinch. He knew exactly what was coming, and he was ready to show them that killing him wouldn't be that easy. They pushed deeper, shredding through more mobs, but the real battle wasn't against the monsters, it was against each other. Charlie was losing his patience. Aim properly, he barked, as another shot went wide. The mage couldn't explain it. She knew her aim was dead on, but the target kept moving, at the last possible second. Is he just lucky? Kaiser was actually bored. He was literally giving them a clear shot at his back, and they still couldn't land a hit. Maybe he should wait for them to get desperate. Right then, the massive doors groaned open. The boss stage was finally here. But they weren't alone. A squad of elite red goblins was waiting for them. These weren't the usual mobs. They were trained to kill, and they weren't going to make this easy for anyone. Charlie tried one last trick. Kaiser, take the lead, he shouted. Handle those elites, while we back you up. But when he turned around, the spot was empty. Kaiser was gone. What the hell? Charlie screamed. Where did that bastard go? Shield Best realized it too late. He caught on. Kaiser knew the plan, and he wasn't playing along anymore. There was no time to hunt him down. The elite goblins were already there. Look ahead, the mage yelled. As the first blade came swinging, Charlie barely got his sword up. The trap he set for Kaiser just snapped shut on himself. And now, there was nobody left to save them. Charlie was barely hanging on. I'll hold him, he yelled. Finish this now. The mage scrambled to help. Yeah, I got it. She started her spell, but she never got to finish it. Something massive came crashing down from above, shattering the ground, and throwing everything into chaos. The real nightmare had just stepped onto the field. This wasn't just another soldier. The goblin chieftain was here, a rare dungeon boss, with a bloodline of ancient warriors, and he looked like he was in a very bad mood. Shield Best was desperate. We'll take the hits, he yelled. Just help us clear this. But then he stopped cold. Out of the shadows, a familiar figure appeared. The mage couldn't believe it. How are you still alive? She stammered. Kaiser didn't look like the same guy anymore. He walked toward them, with a massive blade, and a look that meant trouble. You guys, he said quietly. You're friends with that assassin boy, right? Shield Best tried to play it cool. Wait, he shouted. Yeah, we're enemies, but we need to survive this dungeon. Let's just work together for now. He was talking fast, but he was missing the point. Kaiser wasn't there to help. He was there to settle the score. Shield Best thought he had a chance. We need to work together to clear this place, he shouted. Kaiser looked at him. Well, that's reasonable, he replied calmly. Right, exactly. Shield Best was already celebrating. Let's just clear the dungeon first. But he never got to finish. In a split second, Kaiser made his move, and the mage didn't even see it coming. But I refuse, he said. He wasn't looking for teammates. He was looking for revenge. The negotiation was over. Kaiser looked back, with a grin that said everything. The woman couldn't believe it. You bastard. How are you still standing? Dumrock didn't care about her shock. He just had one question. You're his friends, right? Things were going sideways fast, so she tried to cut a deal. Wait, we're enemies, but we need each other to clear this dungeon. She was desperate to survive, and for a second, it looked like he was buying it. Well, he said, that actually makes sense. But in a place like this, logic doesn't keep you alive. She thought she had him. Right, exactly. Let's just focus on the dungeon. But talk is cheap, and Dumrock wasn't buying any of it. He didn't even let her finish. Before she could blink, everything flipped. But I don't want to, he said. The system confirmed it immediately. She was flagged as a villain, which meant no penalty for the kill. He stood over the remains, completely calm. Just as I thought, they really were the bad guys. In this game, mercy is just another way to get killed. Dumrock was playing a dangerous game. He used a stealth skill on the mage's fresh corpse, just to stay out of sight. Charlie was losing his mind. You killed our mage. Are you trying to get us all killed? But Dumrock just smiled. He had a simple question. Do you know what my motto is? Charlie couldn't even process it. Before the truth hit him, I never team up with scum, who try to stab me in the back. Working with people like that only leads to one place. Everything ends up rotten. Then he pulled out a weapon. That made Charlie's blood run cold. That dagger. It belonged to the assassin they sent to kill him. Now the real hunt begins. Charlie couldn't wrap his head around it. How do you even have that? Dumrock just gave him a cold look. You recognized it pretty fast. Is it because it belongs to your friend? Charlie was starting to panic. He tried to play the logic card. A swordsman can't even use that weapon. And if you kill us, you'll never get out of here alone. He pointed at the massive beast ahead. The goblin chieftain has a special defense. It blocks every physical attack you throw at it. In this dungeon, mages are the only ones who matter. Without them, you're just a dead man walking. But Dumrock wasn't worried. He knew something Charlie didn't. What can I do with a single dagger? 2 words. Status ailments. Suddenly, the look on Charlie's face changed. He realized he'd completely miscalculated. Dumrock had one question. What do you think status ailments actually are? Charlie couldn't believe his ears. Are you insane? You think a little bleeding is gonna kill a boss like that? But Dumrock just smiled. If it were just normal bleeding, you'd be right. Before Charlie could even react, the dagger was already in the air. He thought it was a desperate move. This won't do anything. But the system had other plans. The stat difference was overwhelming, and the dagger's hidden effect snapped into place. Suddenly, Charlie's world started to crumble. The bleeding wasn't just a status. It was a death sentence. he realized too late. Dumrock wasn't the one in over his head. He was. The system didn't lie. The damage was off the charts. Charlie's health was disappearing, and he couldn't stop it. He was losing his mind. This makes no sense. I'm level 24, and he's only level 20. How could a level 20 player have stats this overwhelming, even with the best gear? This shouldn't be possible. But Dumrock just looked down at him. You probably don't get it. This isn't a normal skill. He'd pulled a rare gacha ticket, and the reward changed everything. A bleeding effect. That actually stacks. In this world, that's supposed to be impossible. But for Dumrock, the rules are different. Now Charlie's time is officially running out. Dumrock knew he was a glitch in the system. A rogue skill on an assassin's weapon? Nobody saw that combo coming. Charlie was finished. He couldn't accept the reality. This has to be a hack. You're a hacker, aren't you? But the system didn't care about his excuses. The notification was final. Player Bastard Sword is dead. Since he was flagged as a villain, Dumrock's karma stayed clean. He just sighed. Everyone says the same thing when they lose. But there was no time to relax. A scream echoed through the dungeon. Jaewon. One of his allies was cornered, and the situation was going sideways fast. Damn it. Charlie was broken, staring at the wreckage of his life. Where did it all go wrong? He finally saw the truth. From the very beginning, they never should have started this. They didn't just pick a fight. They invited a demon into their world. Jaewon knew he had to move. I have to run. I have to get out of here now. But Dumrock was faster. One swing was all it took to end the conversation. The system confirmed the nightmare. The bleeding was out of control, and his health was almost gone. HP below 10%. Jaewon could barely speak. What happens now? Another one bites the dust. The system confirmed the kill, but since the guy was a villain, Dumrock's karma stayed perfect. He stood among the bodies, completely unfazed. The damage isn't half bad, he noted to himself. He dumped 15 points straight into his strength stat. It was a massive gamble, and he was counting on it to pay off. But his efficiency just created a much bigger problem. The elite soldiers were dead, and the boss wasn't happy about it. A massive roar ripped through the cave. The goblin chieftain was awake, and it was looking for blood. Dumrock looked up. Right then, he knew the real fight was starting. The ground was shaking as the big guy charged in. Right, Dumrock said to himself. That guy was still here. Most people would have run, but he just stood his ground, with a look that said he was bored. Now, shall we have some fun? The chieftain let out a roar. That could have split the ceiling, but Dumrock didn't even blink. He was already moving. In a split second, the distance between them vanished. He didn't use his sword. He didn't need to. A single knee to the jaw sent a shockwave through the room. The monster's scream changed from a threat to pure agony. Just like that, the hunter became the prey, and Dumrock was just getting warmed up. The monster was putting on a show, roaring and covered in flames, but Dumrock wasn't impressed. He was just looking for an opening. That's when he made his move. No hesitation, just a flash of red energy, and a strike that cut through everything. The impact was immediate. The beast didn't even see it coming. It went from a threat to a victim in a single second. The system started screaming alerts. The bleeding effect was massive, and the boss's health was tanking. 40%, 30%. The chieftain was falling apart. It tried to let out one last cry, but the damage was already done. Dumrock was just walking it down now, waiting for the end. Dumrock was done playing around. He pulled out a dagger and looked the beast in the eye. All right, let's wrap this up. The chieftain finally got the message. It wasn't a fight anymore. It was a slaughter. The massive boss turned tail and actually tried to run away, but there was nowhere to hide. Dumrock triggered a new skill, back grab. In a flash of blue light, the distance between them vanished. 1 second the boss was fleeing. The next, Dumrock was right behind it, whispering in its ear. Where are you going? The hunt was over, and the exit was officially closed. The tables have officially turned. This monster thought it was the hunter, but it just realized it's the one being hunted. Dumrock said coldly, let's end this now. That was the final straw. The beast completely lost it, and tried to bolt for the exit. But it's too late. When Dumrock locks onto a target, there's nowhere left to run. The monster thought it found a way out, but Dumrock was already 10 steps ahead. With a new skill activated, the distance between them vanished in a second. Dumrock asked with a smirk, where are you going? That's when the beast realized the exit was just a mirage, and the real nightmare was standing right behind it. The hunt is officially over. With one final strike, the goblin chieftain is down, and the dungeon is cleared. The system notifications started rolling in immediately. Level up, dungeon cleared, and a rare drop to top it off. All that life and death drama finally paid off, with some serious new gear. Dumrock cheered. Nice, great rewards. Talk about perfect timing. Dumrock actually needed a new belt, and this rare drop fit the bill perfectly. As soon as he put it on, his stats started climbing. Strength and stamina both took a nice jump. He said to himself, not bad. He's already calculating his next move, thinking he could have hit a ranker spot if the conditions were different. It's a bit of a shame, but he's not leaving just yet, because the best rewards are still waiting to be claimed. Forget monster drops. Dumrock just hit the jackpot by looting a fallen player. He picked up a rare shield and couldn't believe the quality. This guy must have spent a fortune on his gear. Then he found the sword. The bastard's training sword? It all started to click. The ID was bastard sword, and every item he owned fit that exact theme. Dumrock just shook his head. This guy wasn't just a player. He was a hardcore role player who took his persona way too seriously. Dumrock was ready to call it a day. The guy he looted won't be needing his gear anymore, so selling it all seemed like the best plan. But before heading out, he activated his Eye of Truth just to see if he missed anything. That's when he saw it. Something was glowing deep in the shadows. He paused. What is that? It was way too bright to be someone hiding in stealth. As he moved closer, he realized this might be something much more valuable. Could it be a rare herb? Whatever it is, he's about to find out. Just when he thought he was done for the day, Dumrock hit the motherlode. A system alert popped up. He just discovered a hidden dungeon, the Black Goblin Shaman's hideout. He even scored a new title, Competent Explorer, just for finding the place. Dumrock couldn't believe it. A hidden dungeon? See, there are all kinds of dungeons, party raids, single bosses, even massive labyrinths. But among all of them, the hidden ones are the rarest and the least known. Everything's about to flip, because Dumrock just found the one thing most players never even see. Hidden dungeons are a nightmare to find, even for professional explorers. They're almost invisible. They're tucked away in the most ridiculous places, and that's not even the hard part. To even get inside, you have to meet some pretty insane conditions. The system started scanning. One person? Confirmed. Not in a party? Confirmed. Conditions met. Dumrock couldn't believe his luck. This is where it gets crazy. Usually, these are party-type dungeons, but to unlock this one, he had to find it completely alone. He's flying solo into a place meant for a team. This is gonna be brutal. Dumrock realized finding this place was just the start. The entry conditions were so strict that most players would never even get the chance. Then the stats popped up, and his jaw dropped. A hero-grade dungeon? This wasn't just a rare find. It was a legendary challenge. A single boss fight, with only one seat available. But here's the kicker. This is a one-shot deal. If he clears it, the dungeon vanishes forever. If he fails, he can never step foot inside again. Dumrock didn't hesitate. He gripped his sword and made his choice. I'm clearing this thing, no matter what. But he should have listened to the veterans, like Freed, a high-ranking pro who knows the truth. Entering a hidden dungeon isn't just a game. It's like shoving your head straight into the jaws of a beast. The comments were blowing up. People couldn't believe what they were hearing. Is he saying it's that difficult? This sounds like a suicide mission. Everyone wanted to know, if it's really that bad, why is everyone so desperate to find these places? Do they all have a death wish? It sounds like he's just being dramatic, but every single player who's actually survived a hidden dungeon agrees with Freed. Think about it. What happens when you shove your head into the jaws of a beast? Everything looks calm until the trap is set. Then, it snaps shut. That's exactly what a hidden dungeon is. A beautiful prize inside a mouth that's waiting to crush you. The trap is set. The beast just opens its mouth and waits for the prey to walk right in. Dumrock took the leap. The system confirmed it. He was officially inside the hidden dungeon, but he didn't even have a second to breathe. Before he could even look around, everything went sideways. A cursed orb hit him, dead center. The system started screaming. Status effect, dark vision. Just like that, his field of view narrowed to nothing. He's blind, and the real fight hasn't even started yet. The dungeon tried to shut him down, right at the front door, but it made one huge mistake. It forgot who it was dealing with. Dumrock's hero trait kicked in, and the system went wild. Mental corruption? Resisted. Dark vision? Completely ignored. The light exploded around him, and he just stood there, with a smirk on his face. What a fierce initiation, he said. He's not just surviving, he's loving every second of it. But his confidence just caught the attention of something nasty in the dark. A voice hissed from the shadows. How dare you enter my home without permission? It was Jihad, the master of this place. He looked at Dumrock and saw something he didn't expect. A human who doesn't know the meaning of fear. Things just got a lot more crowded. Jihad didn't come alone. He called out his children to finish the job. First came the undead goblins, crawling out of the purple mist. Then the giant spiders, screeching from the dark. Most people would be screaming, but Dumrock? He's just grossed out. Ugh, gross, he thought. Jihad is totally misreading the room. He saw the look on Dumrock's face and started laughing. It seems you're terrified by the sight of my children. He thinks he's won. He thinks the fear is finally setting in, but he's about to find out that being disgusted is not the same as being afraid. The system just confirmed it. Jihad isn't some random mob. He's a hero grade named Boss. a survivor of a fallen clan. Most people would be shaking, but Dumrock? He's seeing dollar signs. A named boss means legendary rewards. He's thinking back to the time he took down a demonic dragon. The loot back then was insane, so he's already wondering what he'll get this time. But while he's counting his gold, Jihad is starting to smell a rat. He's watching Dumrock from his throne. Something's not adding up. How did a human find this place? He doesn't feel like an explorer, and that's making the boss very nervous. Jihad can sense it. Dumrock isn't just a normal human. He's got a mix of different auras swirling inside him. Dumrock was actually impressed. Oh, what? He thought. He's pretty sharp for a goblin, but being special doesn't mean you get a pass. Jihad made it very clear. Now that you've stepped foot in here, there's no helping it. The boss raised his hand, and the room exploded with purple energy. The real fight is starting. The undead swarm is here, and they're hungry. There's nowhere left to run, and honestly, Dumrock wouldn't have it any other way. The smoke hasn't even cleared, but Jihad already knows something's wrong. He's looking everywhere, trying to find his target, but the room is empty, or so he thought. Right then, the boss felt a chill. He turned around, and there was Dumrock, standing perfectly still. He didn't just survive the explosion, he's already been tagged. The system message made it official. The status effect bleeding has been inflicted. Jihad looked down at the fresh wound on his chest. He couldn't believe it. Just when the tables have turned, and the boss is finally starting to sweat. Dumrock is really leaning into the disrespect. He asked with a smirk. Surprised? I told you, you should have stayed tense. That was the final straw. The boss is officially losing his cool. You little rat. Jihad spat back. He's done playing games. Let's see just how long you can keep this up. Suddenly, the room turned into a death trap. Purple beams of energy started flying everywhere, tearing the ground apart. Jihad is spamming everything, trying to pin him down. There's nowhere to hide, but Dumrock is already moving. The real chase is on. Jihad is throwing everything, but the kitchen sink at him. The room is filled with purple death, but it's not hitting the mark. Dumrock is just dancing through the chaos. He's not even breaking a sweat, because he's finally cracked the code. I can see it, he said to himself. He's reading the boss like an open book. He knows exactly where Jihad is aiming, where he's going to strike, and what he's planning next. The boss thinks he's in control, but the truth is, he's already lost the lead. Stay tuned, because the counterattack is going to be legendary. Jihad is done playing around. He's pulling out the big guns, and he's convinced this is the finish line. This is the end. The boss screamed as he channeled every bit of his power. Right then, the system gave a terrifying warning. Jihad is casting the Great Corpse Explosion. This isn't just an attack, it's a total wipeout move. Everything's about to go boom, and the whole room is swallowed by purple fire. It looks like there's nowhere left to run. Is this really how it ends? Jihad isn't holding back anymore. That purple energy is everywhere, and there's nowhere to hide. But Dumrock is staying calm. He's reading every single move. He knows exactly where the next hit is coming from. Jihad screams out, "It's over." He thinks he's won, but the real danger is just starting. The boss just triggered a corpse explosion, and things are about to get messy. The explosion was massive. Jihad thought it was all over. He even started bragging about his new rare test subject. But then, the system notification popped up. The mark was gone. Right then, everything flipped. Dumrock appeared right behind him, without a single scratch. He asked with a smirk, "Did your skill miss?" The price for that mistake was immediate. Dumrock didn't just counter. He sent Jihad flying. Jihad is falling apart. He's backing away, trying to find an exit, but there's nowhere to run. He's still spitting threats, muttering about how he'll get his revenge. But Dumrock looks like a monster, standing right over him. He's not here to talk. Jihad screamed out, "Wait, stop." Before Jihad can even finish, things exploded. Dumrock unleashed a barrage, so fast the monster couldn't breathe. But it was too late. The real beatdown was just getting started. Dumrock actually stopped, not because he was tired, but because this boss is pathetic. Jihad started whining, complaining that hitting bones is somehow foul play. Dumrock couldn't believe it. Is this really a hero-grade boss? Something's definitely wrong here. Sure, that corpse explosion was powerful, but the guy behind it is a total joke. He's way too weak, and Dumrock is done playing games. It's time to wrap this up. For good. Jihad was just playing dead. He was waiting for Dumrock to let his guard down. Suddenly, everything's about to flip. The system warned him. The boss is triggering a bloodline factor. This isn't just a small boost. Jihad is jumping to Hero Plus grade, and that's a whole different league. Dumrock knows the deal. Hero Plus is where you need a full team just to survive. He can't just stand there and watch this happen. If he doesn't stop this now, he's in serious trouble. He reached for his blade. It's time to end this before the real monster wakes up. Dumrock isn't holding back, he's dumping every point, straight into raw strength. He just broke the limit, surpassing 100 points, and he's not done yet. He's stacking every buff, from warrior gear, to specialized boss damage, everything is clicking into place. Jihad can't believe his eyes, this kind of power shouldn't even be possible. But Dumrock has a simple rule, it doesn't matter how strong the enemy is, because in the end, everything is equal. Before overwhelming damage, the price was immediate. Dumrock didn't give him a single second to transform. One massive strike, and it was all over. Jihad didn't even stand a chance. The system confirmed it. The secret dungeon is cleared, and the boss is history. Since he's the first one to ever pull this off, the rewards are absolutely insane. His level is skyrocketing, and he just scored a hero-grade spirit orb. This is how a pro takes over a dungeon. Everything went exactly as planned. Dumrock was right. The rewards for this raid are absolutely no joke. He just scored a hero-grade robe that can hide his identity. It's the perfect auxiliary gear. But then, things got a little weird. He found a mysterious item linked to a forgotten clan. The system can't even identify the grade of this thing. It's a total mystery for now. Just when he thought the loot haul was over, one last item popped up, an unidentified card. Dumrock knows the deal. In this world, cards change everything. In this world, cards are everything. Skills, enchantments, even the bosses you kill, all end up as cards. Dumrock figured this new card was just for a gear buff, but he was dead wrong. This is a hero grade card, containing the actual soul of the boss he just beat. He didn't just get loot, he got a guardian, a powerful being that exists only to protect him. It's like a mage's salamander, or an alchemist's golem, but way more dangerous. Dumrock just went from fighting alone to having a boss as a bodyguard. This changes everything. Dumrock wasn't exactly thrilled. Most guardians are just expensive money sinks that don't do much. Unless you've got legendary beasts, like the ones Purple Taste has, they're usually a waste. But he decided to roll the dice anyway, and hit the summon button. That's when everything went sideways. The terrifying boss was gone. In his place was a tiny level 1 goblin, with zero loyalty to his name. Jihad looked up, and realized he was now serving the man who just killed him. This is gonna be a problem. Dumrock is having some serious buyer's remorse. He expected a legendary beast, with a cool look, and top-tier power. Instead, he's stuck with a goblin, who spends all his time complaining about serving a human. But it gets worse. The system just revealed Jihad's actual traits. He's an opportunist, who only fights people weaker than himself. And since his loyalty is basically zero, the system gave a final warning. If Dumrock isn't careful, his own guardian will stab him in the back. This is crazy. He didn't just get a useless pet, he got a ticking time bomb. Dumrock realized one thing, he couldn't just let this goblin's attitude slide. If he didn't step in now, he'd never have control. Jihad tried to act tough, calling his own master nothing but a human. That's when Dumrock snapped. He's had enough of the disrespect and the backstabbing vibes. He decided it was time for some physical education to fix that rotten mindset. The real lesson starts now. 1 hit per second, until the goblin learns who's actually in charge. Jihad has no idea what's coming for him, but it's gonna hurt. Dumrock wasn't kidding. He's done talking and ready to start the most brutal lesson of Jihad's life. The beating was immediate, and it was loud. Most people would think attacking your own guardian is a huge mistake, but this is where it gets weird. The system started tallying the hits, and something changed. With every single blow, Jihad's loyalty actually started to climb. It's a twisted way to build a relationship, but for a guy like this, the results speak for themselves. The sun was already setting, and Do-hyun was just starting his day. He woke up, feeling like he'd slept for a century. He asked his mom, "Is there anything to eat?" She didn't even look up. "Nope, did you leave something here? Looks like he's on his own for dinner." Do-hyun couldn't believe the scene in front of him. He asked his mom what she was even doing, and her answer completely caught him off guard. She was playing Go's, and she wasn't just some casual beginner. She said calmly, "I'm level 71, that's a serious grind." Suddenly, his mom wasn't just lounging around anymore. Mom's been at this for 6 months, and she's actually having a blast. Do-hyun tried to question her stats, but she shut him down immediately. She said, "I don't spend 10 hours a day on it, like some people." That hit a nerve, but the mood shifted the second the news came on. The Hero Guild? Suddenly, the game wasn't the only thing on their minds. Mom is totally sold on the Hero Guild, but not because of their skills. She says they're the most popular group just because they're handsome. Do-hyun wasn't buying it. He called the leader a total pretty boy. But Mom wasn't having any of it. She told him, that guy is on a whole different level than you. Do-hyun had to get the last word in, says the one who looks like a pelican. Do-hyun was ready to head out and hit the gym, but then Mom dropped a detail he couldn't ignore. She said these guys are pulling in hundreds of millions of views online. Do-hyun's jaw dropped. He asked if that meant they were loaded. Mom didn't hold back. She heard the guy makes $1 billion. That's when Do-hyun's brain completely short-circuit. $1 billion. How much fried chicken does that actually buy? Do-hyun walked away like a total zombie, muttering about that $1 billion. His mom was completely weirded out. She had no idea what was going on with him. But Do-hyun had a plan. He wasn't just going to play the game anymore. The system synced up, and he was officially back in. He decided to start recording everything, just in case that influencer life was actually within reach. Do-hyun is officially starting his career as a streamer. He's recording everything now. Right then, his little minion showed up through a portal. The little guy got a bit too casual with his tone, but Do-hyun didn't really mind. He even tried to be a nice boss by giving the goblin some extra clothes, but being nice totally backfired. The system sent a warning. Loyalty just dropped by 2 points. Looks like the cool boss act isn't working at all. Jihad tried to pull a fast one and claimed he was finally a free elf, but Do-hyun wasn't in the mood for jokes. One look was all it took to make the little guy take it all back. Suddenly, the system pinged. Loyalty went right back up. Do-hyun couldn't believe it. This guy's loyalty is like a rubber band. But there was no time to relax. Do-hyun said they had to run, and Jihad had no idea why. When Do-hyun said they had to run, he didn't mean they were in danger. He meant he was going on a rampage. The forest monsters didn't stand a chance. Spiders and goblins were getting wiped out left and right. Even Jihad felt bad for the monsters. He couldn't believe they were unlucky enough to run into a demon like Do-hyun. But the slaughter was just the first step. Do-hyun called his minion over to deal with all the loot. He had something specific in mind for those items. Do-hyun wanted to see if his minion was actually useful. He gave Jihad a pretty wild order: turn those dead goblins into an undead army. The little guy didn't hesitate. He started some dark chant, and the ground began to shift. Suddenly, the system confirmed it. The ritual was a total success. Jihad felt a bit bad that he could only bring back a few for now, but seeing a squad of undead standing ready was a huge win. Do-hyun had to admit this was actually pretty impressive. Do-hyun figured having an undead squad would be pretty useful later, but then the goblins suddenly bolted into the woods. He was totally confused until Jihad spoke up. The little guy had already ordered them to go pick up all the loot. Do-hyun couldn't believe it. His minion was already delegating the grunt work to someone else, but chores weren't going to help him level up. He needed something bigger and tougher to show up. That's when Jihad mentioned the elite mobs nearby, and from the look of it, things were about to get a lot more dangerous. Jihad had the perfect answer ready to go. He knew exactly where the elite mobs were hiding. Do-hyun couldn't believe his luck. The little guy explained that these monsters just sit around in the same spot all day long. For anyone else, that sounds like a death trap, but for Do-hyun, it was the ultimate jackpot. A whole group of elites just waiting to be hunted. Everything was falling into place for a massive level up. Dumrock was stuck, wondering how to grind those last 2 levels. He just needed a few elite mobs to show up. But then, the little guy dropped a bombshell. He knew exactly where those elites were hiding out. Apparently, they were all just sitting ducks. Dumrock couldn't believe his luck. He just hit the jackpot. The little guy wasn't kidding. They found the motherlode. Dumrock couldn't believe the numbers. It was an entire army. Right then, the system went into overdrive. A sudden quest popped up with insane rewards. An intermediate skill draw ticket? That's a total game changer. For Dumrock, this was a no-brainer. He's going all in. Dumrock didn't waste a single second. He dropped in unannounced The monster barely had time to drop its food. Dumrock just laughed. Hey there! The elite swung for the fences with everything it had, but it was way too slow. It missed by a mile. Now the monster was wide open, and it knew it. Dumrock started things off with a brutal kick straight to the jaw. That one definitely left a mark, but he was just getting warmed up. He triggered a high-level skill called Vital Thrust. In a single flash, he shredded through the entire front line. The system confirmed the damage. They're all bleeding out. For these monsters, it was game over before they even realized it. These monsters weren't backing down without a fight. One of them charged in, screaming for blood. It thought it had the perfect opening, but it was dead wrong. Dumrock caught that massive blade with a tiny dagger. The power difference was a total mismatch. Before the beast could even react, Dumrock sent it flying into the air. That's one way to end an argument. Dumrock was done playing around. He pulled out the big guns. He reached for the massive greatsword strapped to his back. The beast tried to roar one last time, but it didn't stand a chance. With one heavy vertical swing, he split the monster right down the middle. It was lights out. Immediately, the whole area went silent. Just like that, the hunt was over. Karak finally showed his face, and he looked like a total nightmare. This wasn't just some random mob. He was a hidden field boss with power to spare. Most people would have turned and bolted, but Dumrock just stood there with a massive grin. He didn't see a monster. He saw a walking loot bag. The scout nearly lost his mind, screaming for him to stop. To anyone else, this looked like a suicide mission, but Dumrock was already making his move. He's diving straight into the danger zone. Karak started the trash talk. Immediately, he was sure one hit would shatter everything Dumrock had. He put every bit of power into a ruthless strike. The impact was massive, but things didn't go as planned. When the dust cleared, Karak was the one who couldn't believe it. The scout was speechless. Dumrock didn't break. He didn't even flinch. He stood there like a total brick wall, holding back that giant axe with ease. And Dumrock? He just smiled back. Now the real nightmare begins for Karak. Karak was swinging for the fences, trying to crush Dumrock into the dirt, but he couldn't land a single clean hit. Every time that massive axe came down, Dumrock was already there. The scout, watching from the side, couldn't even process it. He was witnessing something completely insane. It wasn't just luck. Dumrock had the perfect rhythm, deflecting every strike with zero effort. The scout finally realized what was actually happening. It was a perfect parry every single time. Dumrock is making a high-level boss look like an amateur. The parry skill is technically overpowered. It's famous for being able to neutralize even legendary attacks. But there's a catch. The success rate is so abysmal that most players think it's total garbage. It's basically impossible to pull off in a real fight. But Dumrock hit the jackpot. He pulled this skill from a low-tier gacha, and he's actually making it look easy. Karak isn't backing down, though. He's coming in with another ruthless strike, trying to shatter everything. But Dumrock is ready to flip the script one more time. Karak just ran out of moves. His big attack failed, and now he's a sitting duck. Dumrock saw the opening. Immediately, he looked the boss right in the face and asked, "Skills down, huh?" That's when the panic really set in. Karak knew he messed up big time. Dumrock raised that massive red blade for the final blow. Even the scout, watching from the shadows, could feel the shift. The hunter just became the prey, and Dumrock is ready for payback. Karak went for the kill with a ruthless strike, but it wasn't enough. Dumrock didn't even blink. He just laughed. "You burned your skill already?" The beast realized too late. It just wasted its only shot, and now there's nowhere left to run. One swing was all it took. The hidden boss Karak is officially history. Dumrock hit the jackpot, gold, gear, and the big one, 2 intermediate draw tickets. He went from a cold killer to a total fanboy in seconds, celebrating like he won the lottery. Even the monsters watching think he's a complete freak. the guy's a demon in a fight. But the second loot drops, he's a different person, and honestly, that's the scariest part. Dumrock is losing it. Even the monsters are wondering why he's acting so dumb. But he doesn't care. He's putting his gacha luck to the ultimate test. The cards start spinning, and right then, he hits the motherlode. A rare buffer skill, called striking, just dropped out of nowhere. This isn't just some random buff, it's a core skill, with a 40-second duration, with a cooldown that matches. It basically grants infinite attack power. He just turned a normal sword into a weapon of mass destruction, and the game is never gonna be the same. The striking skill is a total game changer. It turns his light blade into a heavy-hitting greatsword. Dumrock is absolutely losing it. He's becoming a one-man army, a solo DPS, who can buff himself to the moon. But the luck doesn't stop there. The system starts flashing, with hero-grade loot, from the boss he just crushed. Red leather armor, matching boots and shoulders, and a rare essence ring. Everything is falling into place. He's finally ditching that trash goblin gear for a set fit for a monster. He's geared up, he's powered up, and now, he's ready to break the game. The transformation is complete. Dumrock is finally geared up, in the red and blue warrior set, with his new stats, and a fresh blade in hand. He's feeling himself a bit too much. He asks his little sidekick, "Doesn't this look better?" It's a total power move. The monster just sighs. "It suits you, master. But honestly, you're starting to scare me." Dumrock just laughs it off. "Even I'm scared of myself. Just how far am I gonna go?" He's officially a narcissist, flexing in the dark, and loving every second of it. What a man indeed. Dumrock's ego is officially too much. Even his loyal sidekick is calling him a crazy bastard. The system doesn't miss a beat. Loyalty just dropped, and Dumrock senses the vibe shift. "Were you just insulting me?" The monster tries to play it cool, but Dumrock pulls a power move. "Step out of line, and you're dead." Nothing fixes an attitude like a sharp blade. Fear is a hell of a motivator, and loyalty is back on track. With the hierarchy restored, it's time to move out. The real hunt is finally about to begin. The celebration is over, and the monster asks, "Where are we going, master?" Dumrock doesn't hesitate. It's time to hunt a boss. But this isn't just for fun. The system is gatekeeping his progress to the next city. To move forward, he has to pass the continent's trial. The mission is simple. Reach level 24, and take down the Spider Queen, Eliza. They've just stepped into the western forest, right into the queen's backyard, and things are about to get messy. The whole forest is crawling with players. Everyone's camping out, waiting for the boss to spawn. The crowd is guessing. North? West? Nobody knows for sure where the queen will show up. Dumrock turns to his guide. "Do you actually know where she's gonna spawn?" The monster just shrugs. "Nope. She's from a newer generation. I've got no clue, master." Dumrock can't believe it. "You said you knew everything about this place. Now they're flying blind, in a forest full of pros, and the clock is ticking down to 0. Dumrock is done guessing. Anyway, where is this thing gonna spawn? He's already planning his move. Doesn't matter where she shows up, he'll just rush in and go for a back grab. But then, the system pings. Trait Slayer has been activated. Suddenly, the Spider Queen's location is glowing right on his map. This is a total game changer. Dumrock is stunned. He never got a Slayer title. 4 spider types. So how is this working? That's when it hits him. This trait isn't just for bosses he's already killed. It's way more broken than he ever imagined. Wait, does this apply to every boss? Dumrock realizes his Slayer trait is even crazier than he thought. But he stops overthinking. That's not what matters. What matters is, he can take the whole prize for himself. While the other players are standing around confused, he makes his move, using back grab. In a second, he's gone, leaving the crowd behind to rot in the forest. He lands right in the cave, staring down the Spider Queen, Eliza. Even he's a bit surprised. Whoa, that actually worked? He's officially cut the line, and the real hunt starts now. The little guy is baffled. "Master, how did you even do that?" Dumrock just shrugs. "It's a long story. Just think of it as easy gains." But the small talk ends right there. More importantly, she's freaking huge. This is Eliza, an elite field boss. Steel webs, deadly poison, and she's not happy to see them. The ground shakes as she lunges. Everything goes sideways in a split second. But Dumrock is ready, using back grab. He's not just here to see the show. He's here to take her down. Eliza didn't even see it coming. Before she can react, Dumrock is already in the air. He's going for the throat, using ascending dragon kick. A golden dragon tears through the darkness, slamming right into her jaw. It's lights out. The system pings an extra 6% damage from his gear set. That's the nail in the coffin. The Queen of Spiders is finally falling apart. She can barely even hiss her own name. But Dumrock isn't done. He's just getting started. and he's not giving her a second to breathe. Dumrock strikes from the shadows, with a perfect backstab. Everything flipped for Eliza, in a single second. He's not letting up. That's when he triggers the ascending dragon kick, to finish the job. The extra damage hit hard. The giant beast groaned. Eliza. She never stood a chance against a combo like that. Dumrock is moving way too fast. He's closing the gap before she can even blink. The boss didn't see it coming. Liza? She couldn't even finish her sentence. He's shredding through her defenses with zero hesitation. There's nowhere to hide from a speed like this. This is bad for Eliza. The real hunt has officially begun. Dumrock is cranking up the heat. His attack power just spiked, and he's heading straight in. The boss is losing it. Eliza, she can't even process the speed. Right then, he unleashes the big one. The ascending dragon kick is a total game changer. The impact was massive. That hit landed right on target. Everything's about to flip. The price for underestimating him was immediate and brutal. Even the other monsters are terrified of this guy. The little observer said, it had to be that devil. He's not here for a chat. He asked coldly, will you still spit that name out when you die? Dumrock doesn't care about the boss's name or her cries for help. I have no idea what an Eliza is, but let's see. Things are getting dark. Dumrock is finishing this, and he's enjoying every second. The boss is screaming, Liza, Eliza dash, but there's no mercy coming. The little guy is watching from the shadows. Master, so cruel. He can't believe the violence. But then, the name Eliza hits him. Eliza? Sounds familiar? Suddenly, everything clicked. He's losing his mind, screaming at the top of his lungs. Master, stop, please stop, please. Dumrock actually paused. He's completely confused. What is it? Why? Something's wrong. The little guy just risked it all to save a monster, and nobody knows why yet. This isn't a fight anymore. The little guy is desperate, screaming at the monster. Eliza, it's me. Open your eyes. He's reaching through to her, begging for a sign. Don't you recognize me? Something's happening. The beast actually spoke. Liza? She's starting to remember. Dumrock is just watching. Everything's about to flip as the truth comes out. To understand this, we have to go back, way back, 150 years ago. It all started with a single voice calling out a name. Liza. The old man paused. The real story is finally being revealed. This is how it started. A long time ago, the man found something strange in the middle of the woods. What's up with this spider? He'd never seen anything like her before. She was tiny, and she could actually talk. Liza, it's actually kind of cute. He decided right then to take her home. Do you want to come with me? But he wanted to be fancy. Liza sounds a bit too plain. How about Eliza? The little spider didn't care. She just kept chirping her favorite word, Liza. He tried to correct her. Not Liza, Eliza. You have to say Eliza. But she wouldn't budge, so he just laughed it off. Fine, have it your way. He had no idea that this little spider would one day become the monster he'd die to protect. He promised he'd be back. Eliza, I have to go out alone today. She wanted to go with him, but he wouldn't have it. That place is still too dangerous for you. He walked out that door with one last goodbye. I'll be back then. But he never came back. Not that day, not the next. The days just kept blurring together. The sun rose, the moon fell, and the house grew quiet. 1 year passed, then 10. The dust started to settle, but she never moved. She's still waiting, in that same spot, for a master who's never coming home. 100 years, that's how long she waited. Just like that, everything was falling apart. Even the cabin couldn't handle the weight anymore. So she left. She headed back to the western forest, the place where it all began. She kept repeating her name over and over. Eliza. She was losing her mind, but she didn't want to forget. Back in the present, the little guy is losing it. He's holding on to her, screaming her name. Then he looks at Dumrock with pure hatred. So simply put, didn't you abandon Eliza? The truth is out, and it's way darker than anyone imagined. The screaming finally stops, but the questions are just beginning. Dumrock wants answers. Why were you hiding? Not just for a few years, but for a century and a half. The little guy is playing it close to the chest. That, I cannot say. It's beyond my capabilities. Something's not right. He's keeping secrets, even from his own master. I'm sorry, master. That's all he can say, leaving Dumrock completely in the dark. But the real problem is still standing right there. Anyway, what should we do now? Dumrock's in a corner. This is a graduation quest. He can't just walk away without killing the target. The little guy knows it too. True, master. There's no easy way out. This is about to get a whole lot worse. Something's changing. Eliza's trying to say something, and the little guy is the only one who hears it. He can't believe his ears. What are you talking about? He's backing away, shaking his head in total denial. No, no, but Eliza doesn't stop. She keeps repeating it, until the truth finally sinks in. Dumrock's completely lost. Hey, what's wrong? The little guy looks up, and the words feel like lead in his mouth. She wants you to stab her, master. This is the ultimate sacrifice. She's not asking for a rescue, she's asking for an end.